I'm Ian O'Neill.
I'm Caoilte the Barra.
I'm Andy Stevenson, and you're listening to the Auld Triangle.
We're an Irish MMA podcast brought to you by SevereMMA.com.
From amateurs to pros, regional shows to Irish fighters abroad, we're all over Irish MMA.
If that sounds like your cup of tea, hit subscribe, and now let's start the episode.
Yes, indeed. You know what time it is. It's episode 7 of the Auld Triangle. We're back, and we have another monster episode as usual for you guys today. Caolan and Tiarnan Loughan will be joining us later on for a fantastic interview. I'm looking forward to you guys for listening to that. As usual, Andy Stevenson, Caoilte the Barra.
Hello.
They join me today to look back on last couple of weeks of Irish MMA first. We'll look ahead a little bit later on in the podcast to what's coming up. And the interview in the middle, a few questions at the end. And here we go. Let's get on to it. And I think what we both would like, with all three of us, we discussed what we'd like to talk to first. And fresh in our minds, hot off the press, is Cage Legacy 15, which went down last weekend. Or weekend before last, I guess, when this recording comes out. But a fantastic show overall. I really enjoyed it from the first fight to the very last. The guys, as always, put on a fantastic show. Caoilte was there live. You got to witness it live. Sean O'Bannon's pro debut. Bunch of amateur title fights went down. Looked at a real good atmosphere there, Caoilte. Did you enjoy being a part of it and soaking it all in?
It was absolutely incredible. You see that, once the main card hit as well, it was like it just turned up a notch. And then I'd say maybe the title fights, it was just ridiculous. Main event then, oh my god, it's one of those things maybe a few hundred people there. They made it sound like there was loads, well over $1,000 what you'd think was in there when you're kind of in the atmosphere. It was fun. It's just so good. Do you know what? Cage Legacy in Dublin was probably more noisy than some of the UFC events that be on over in the US because fans don't really. They're not into them. They don't give as much noise.
It's the joy of regional shows. You've got a lot of friends, a lot of family there. They're really getting behind all the fighters. It's something that I quite enjoy about watching regional shows. And I mean, in order to put on or create a good atmosphere, you need a good card, you need a good show, and we certainly got that with Cage Legacy 15. And was there anything that stood out to you, Caoilte? Look, we'll have a little chat about all the title fights that went down and Shauna's fight. Was there anything on the undercard that really stood out to you, or any performance that stood out to you, Caoilte?
On the undercard, really stood out. There's a few good ones. Jamie McKenna, I really enjoyed that one. I thought he stood out from the crowd there quite a bit. Karen McConway had a good fight as well. But I must admit, was it the Aaron Boyle and Carl Byrne fight? The Tony Ferguson doppelganger. I really enjoyed that first round. I thought it was going to be like a finish for Carl, and then it just completely flips, and then obviously decision goes to Aaron Boyle. That one stood out as well. I really did enjoy that.
Indeed, yeah, it was good undercard. I mean, I thought there was a couple of good performances on it as well. A couple of close fights as well. I mean, should we just talk about the title fights? I'd like to talk about first Mario Di Stefano and Nathan Brennan. A good performance from Mario. Nathan Brennan was unable to continue after round 1. I'm unsure what really happened. Was it? Did you hear anything on site, Caoilte? Was it an injury or what was going on there? Was there anything stemming from that?
Caught me off guard, to be honest. I was just looking at it, and then it was just a strange, because he wasn't that. He was just down around. That was all. Went back to the corner, and then he was kind of, I don't know. He's almost like he squaring up to Jamie Abiza and his corner. It was a strange one, and just didn't want to. He quit. I think, I don't think he don't think he wanted it. And fair enough, she didn't want it. That's grand. The reaction was a bit intense. So it caught me well off guard, but it's what it is. And hopefully he learns from it and comes back. And it's a lesson, if anything. Hopefully.
Indeed, sometimes it's just not your night. Andy, someone that really impressed me on the card was Alex Josan from Full Power MMA. Picked up a 26-second submission win over Shane Mullen. A beautiful suplex into a head and arm choke. I think he picked up the record for the quickest finish in a previous Cage Legacy card. Now goes ahead, and I think that was, I want to say it was 28 seconds, I believe. This submission came at 26-second mark.
Yeah, 24 seconds next time.
Yeah, that's it. It's getting quicker and quicker every time. I mean, it was massively impressive from Alex Josan, and he's definitely one to look at.
Yeah, and I think it's his third finish in a row, or I don't know if Luke Manley Kelly footed. I don't know what round that was, but that's 2 first round finishes in a row. So yeah, definitely one to keep an eye on. I think he trains out of Full Power, right? Yep. So Declan Kenna's got a growing stable of fighters there. So it'd be interesting to see how he gets on against other competition. But yeah, a solid win and getting a good bit of momentum behind him.
Indeed, and we have it on the news section later on, but it's probably worth mentioning that he is set to go over to Battle Arena in the UK to fight for a title in May. No opponent as of yet announced. Maybe we can get that information for you in the next podcast. But definitely Alex is someone to look out for. A really, really good prospect. And he picked up the interim featherweight championship with that win over Shane Mullen. Moving on to Gary Rooney versus Matthew Friel, which was a rematch. These guys fought before in a close fight, and this was another close fight. I mean, Matthew Friel came out, almost had Gary Rooney in a Darce choke from the bottom. Gary Rooney really had to gut it out. He showed excellent top control, and kind of that's where it stayed for the rest of the fight. It was a really good performance from Gary, and a really battling performance from Matthew Friel, wasn't it, Caoilte?
It was fantastic. From the walkout, that was just... The atmosphere was ridiculous. Gary Rooney walking out to come out your black and tans. He's there in these Sakuraba shorts, and it was mental. And the two of them delivered. I loved it. And that Darce from I've never seen genuine. I haven't seen anything like that before. I don't think it was a bit new. I had to ask someone, like, "Come here, what's he doing?" And then, Jesus, yeah. It looked deep as well.
It was very deep. Like, I mean, I'd love to ask Gary how deep it was. Sometimes maybe they might not want to admit that it was as deep as it was, but I'm sure Gary's an honest guy. He would say it as it is. And it looked to me that it was deep, and it looked like Gary, I thought Gary did very well to work his way out of it. It's important in those situations, not to panic, to kind of relax yourself into the position. And, Gary showed that and showed good maturity for a young fighter. And, he's experienced amateur fights. I believe that was his 12th fight. So, he showed that amateur experience there and was calm under pressure and definitely deserved the win overall over Matthew Friel. That moves us on to the co-main event, a fight that, we were all very excited for. The atmosphere was electric in the arena. And, it lived up to expectations, didn't it, Andy? Jordan O'Neill versus Troy Gibson for the light heavyweight championship. Both of these guys were the belt collectors. It was a great fight to have at light heavyweight. No one had to cut weight. We were getting the best of the two of these guys. And it was a fantastic fight overall and a tremendous performance from Jordan O'Neill.
Yeah, Jordan O'Neill really, really impressed me. The first thing that stood out to me about this fight is the fact, we've talked about before with Troy Gibson moving up from welterweight here, and he looked like he was the bigger man inside the cage. So I think both of them, this was at light heavyweight, wasn't it? So I don't know what weight. I think they're both probably middleweights, I would say, if I was to guess, but it's kind of difficult to gauge which weight class they should be in. But yeah, Jordan O'Neill, the power in his shots, it wasn't that close. He really put a beating down on Troy Gibson here throughout. So I was very, very impressed with Jordan O'Neill. I thought that the way he threw his shots and, you know, kind of going up and down the ladder, varying from body to head, and really just keeping Troy Gibson on the back foot and guessing the entire time, and he just proved too much for him. So he reigned supreme, and I think both of them are likely to move on to the pro ranks now. So look, fair play to both of them for taking it. I mean, I know it didn't go Troy Gibson's way, but I'm sure he learned from that experience, and no harm in having a tough fight like that. I don't think he took, you know, a whole lot. He took a lot of damage, but he also didn't take, you know, very like concussive shots or anything like that, which is good, especially when you're an amateur. So look, hopefully he can use that to grow, and you'd rather take a loss like that as your last amateur fight than kind of, you know, as your first pro fight. So yeah, excited to see both of them moving forward.
Those fights will mold you into a better fighter. It's no, that, like you said, Andy, it's no shame losing to a guy like Jordan O'Neill. These two are top of the heap in Irish amateur MMA, and they both should be making the move over to the professional ranks right now. To talk about the fight itself, I do agree with you. I thought, you know, once Jordan O'Neill found his range against Troy Gibson, who was the taller, rangier guy, once he could manage to get on the inside and land those body shots were the main differential in the fight, and kind of the key factor in him getting the win. I was really impressed with his movement in and out, and his combinations into boxing. And Jordan O'Neill is someone I'm really excited to see progress, and I'm really excited to see him make his pro debut. I would love to see him make his pro debut at the middleweight division, wherever that may be, is yet to be seen. But yeah, Troy Gibson will also probably make the move over to the pro ranks, and I'm excited to see his progression too. Two excellent fighters. Caoilte, from what you've heard so far, but from myself and Andy, do you kind of come to a similar kind of assessment, or what was the feeling like inside the hall that night when that fight was going on? I mean, terribly, a lot of excitement, hullabaloo. The two boys went at it. Both of them gave everything. You know, even though Troy Gibson lost, he gave everything. He left it all in there, and the fight was a credit to the both of them.
Yeah, I think you kind of summed up the fight pretty well. But just, you know, from the actual being there, like, oh, it was, you could cut the tension with the knife. It was just ridiculous. Like, you could feel it in the arena. It's like, oh, it was an amateur fight, but it had those kind of little, those big fight feels. It's kind of, it was good. I really loved it. Every second, just kind of taking it in, thinking, wow, this is great. Really enjoyed it. Both lads are fantastic, and Jordan O'Neill on the mic afterwards, calling out that he wants on that Cage Warriors Belfast card, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets on it, but it might be a tough ask with all the lads trying to get on that card now, I'd say.
There's going to be a queue of fighters looking to get on that card, and you know, we might have a little bit something. We have something later on in regards to that card ourselves about matchups and stuff like that. On to the main
matchmakers. Let's go.
There we go. We're going to put Ian Dean under pressure maybe later on.
Yeah, if you're one of these people who's listening and thinks, right, we'll skip the end of the podcast. We've got fantasy matchmaking going on later on, so stick around.
Moving on to the main event of Cage Legacy 15, and that was the debut of Sean O'Bannon for the strawweight championship there, professional strawweight championship. So Shauna making her debut, picking up the belt, and her first professional fight against Kerry Isom. Really, really impressive performance from Shauna here. You know, opened up with the side kick, was throwing those kicks out there, which, like, you know, we all know that she can do. One thing that really, really impressed me with Shauna was that her initiating the grappling, beautiful judo trips, beautiful grappling exchanges on the bottom, calm and composed, and always in control, landing damage throughout. And, you know, at the midway through round two, you know, she was landing some shots. The referee had seen enough. You know, we've seen fighters take more damage, but I think it was the right call by the referee, because I don't think the fight was going in Kerry Isom's way, and it probably would have got worse for her before it got better. But I was massively impressed with Shauna. It's the perfect way to kick off your professional career, in her own backyard with her friends and family cheering her on. She performed up to the expectations. She created an extra bit of an excitement and an atmosphere in that arena that night. And it couldn't have worked out any better for her. You know, she spoke to us before the fight saying that the scene was perfect. And she said it was a tough camp as well. But you know what? It didn't show there inside the cage for her. She put on a great performance. And, you know, you can say and do a lot of things, but when you have to actually go in there and perform, that's the hardest part. But she excelled in every kind of sense of the field. What's your feelings about the fight, Andy, the performance and everything about her taking the title that night?
Yeah, I mean, it looked like a special debut for her. Obviously, you know, Caoilte can speak to the surroundings and the atmosphere, specifically when that main event was going down. So I'd be interested to hear what you have to say in a moment, Caoilte, about that. But look, it's a pro debut. So while I could go on here and wax lyrical, I want to be a bit reserved. I thought it was a great performance. I thought she looked a superior fighter. I thought it was great. I think the belt is really inconsequential. I don't really care if you're winning a belt in your, like, it's great for her, don't get me wrong, it's great when you win, you stand there with the belt and all that. It's your pro debut, who cares about belts? But I just want to see, like, what I want to see from Shauna Bannon's next 5 fights, say, I want to see her putting her back, I want to see her putting really uncomfortable grappling positions. I want to see her tested with taking as little damage as possible, but really, really tested and brought to deep waters in every single fight now for the next 4 or 5 fights, because I think Shauna Bannon has, you know, you look at some fighters who make their pro debut and they don't look like they're going to be world beaters. They don't look like they're going to, you know, ascend to the levels that other fighters might. But you look at a Shauna Bannon, and I think, right, this is a fighter who could go to the top, who could get to the UFC. And so for that reason, I want her to be ready when the time comes. And she obviously comes from a very decorated striking background, and she looks like she's taken to the grappling like a fish into water. So I think the future is bright for Shauna. So it's interesting to see now what happens next. But yeah, very solid win. And look, on to the next one. Forget about that one now. Forget about titles. You're 1-0, which is great, but a long way to go still. But yeah, the future's bright.
100%. Those tests will certainly come down the line. I'm excited to see. Caoilte, you're in there. Queen came onto the speakers. It was bellowing through the arena, "Don't stop me now." The place looked electric. How was the atmosphere in there, and what is your assessment of the fight?
Feel inside there was absolutely electric. Oh my god. It's one of those experiences that, like, do you know when you go to events and something always stands out and you're like, jeez, that fight was that. Everything about it. It was like a fairy tale, let's be real. You know, you making your pro debut in your hometown and get to do it in that fashion as well. It was fantastic, and I loved it. And fair play to Cage Legacy for putting that on, flying a fighter over, and actually having pro fights. It's great to see. And yeah, fair play to Shauna. She's not just a striker, because obviously, you know, she has that kickboxing background that Andy was saying, and you know, it's very easy to be like, oh, they're just they're a striker or whatever. But Jesus, she looked very good in the ground, and I think future is looking very bright. I'd hope to see her next, as she was saying, 1-fight deals, get the experience, travel around, get, you know, fight people from different areas. And yeah, I think, you know, if she can keep doing that and learn and get battle tested, then UFC could definitely be like on the cards in the future. But we just got to wait and see how it plays out.
Indeed, UFC is definitely on the agenda for Shauna. Look, we'll have a question about what's next. Maybe we can talk a little bit more about that in the Q&A section of what may be next for Shauna or how that's going to work out. But we'll move on to another guy who fought last weekend, and that's Andreas Binder, who fought Rostam Akman cage fight series. Put in an absolutely tremendous performance as well. I mean, going in there against a former UFC fighter, looked really good in the striking exchanges, looked good in the clinch, and an absolutely vicious knockout, really, of Rostam. A vicious right hook.
It was terrifying, wasn't it? Like,
oh my God. Poor Rostam, he took a couple of shots more than he probably should have in the end. But I mean, unbelievable performance from Andreas, and that's how you put yourself on the map, isn't it, Andy?
Oh yeah, like this is well executed. This is exactly what, you know, what we talked about. This is a good opportunity for Andreas coming in here because he's fighting a UFC, you know, ex-UFC fighter, because he's fighting on UFC Fight Pass, and the reasons are that presents an opportunity to, if you go in and get a good finish here, it tees you up, and that's exactly what happened. So the finish was terrifying. Like, it was one of those ones where I was kind of saying, when you forget about the winner, because usually someone scores a big highlight reel knockout, you're like, wow, that was incredible, and all your focus is on the guy who just won. But this is one of those ones where I was like, right, forget about Andreas Binder for a second. Look at Rostam Akman here. He was completely out of it when he finally came to. It was worrying. It was very worrying watching it, because they tried to help him up out of the cage. He was stumbling. You get to sit back down. So it was a rough one. But that just shows the power of Andreas Binder. And I thought that it was a very composed and patient performance. He didn't rush any shots. He didn't overextend. He dropped him in the first round as well, and really just executed brilliantly. And I think that he has announced himself as, we've seen him on the Irish scene now, but now we know, okay, he can go in and beat a Rostam Akman convincingly, emphatically. And I know Rostam Akman, that's his third fight on the bounce that he's lost, and his second brutal knockout in a row, but he fought in the UFC, so that shows that Andreas Binder can hang with the top level European fighters, or at least now he should get the opportunity to go and fight the top level European fighters. So yeah, very exciting stuff.
I mean, Caoilte, we spoke to Andreas, obviously coming into MMA with a judo background, but like the improved striking from Andreas was really on show there against Rostam Akman, and I think the work with Owen Roddy at SPG Charlestown was really showcased there when he fought.
Yeah, for sure, and I think you can never question the striking. I remember after his Thai boxing debut, I saw the clip and then I heard rave reviews as well. That he was just incredible. So he went in, and yeah, it's whatever he's done to improve that is just, he looks lethal now. And now to have that grappling background mixed in with this striking and finishing ability as well, not just able to outstrike lads and decision them, he's knocking them out, and brutally at that as well. So it's a huge win for him. I'm really excited to see who he gets matched up with next, because the next one should be a big fight. It's
who would you like it to be, Caoilte?
I do. That's a tough one now.
Do you think
where?
Do you think he should remain with Cage Fight Series?
No.
Do you think he should be somewhere else?
I mean, he talked about a belt there, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
Did he?
I think a title was up for grabs on the same card as him, and I
was thinking a UAE Warriors
It's possible. I don't know. I know this was probably a one-fight deal. I'd be interested to see if he fights again. He was talking about the title there. I mean, if there was a title up for grabs there, if he had the chance to compete on UFC Fight Pass again for a title, I think that kind of makes sense for Andreas. Would you kind of feel the same way, Andy, about that?
Ask me in about half an hour when we do our Cage Warriors Belfast fantasy matchmaking, and I'll tell you who.
Lovely job. Ear Championships had an event that went on. Actually, the last time that we were recording, the event was on at the same time, so we didn't have too much of a chance to talk about it there. But a couple of really good standout performances, and Ear are really putting on. Decky McAleenan are putting on some absolutely stellar cards. Both the one that has just gone down, the third event, and the next one, which is the fourth event, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes. I mean, a couple of standout performances on the IR card that went down previously. Andrew Barrett picked up a great submission Darstroke win over Armand Herzeg. That was a tough fight for the King of Hell, the self-proclaimed King of Hell, and he
what
got
a man.
brilliant. He got the win. He got the win, and he sealed himself into a title shot for the next event, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes. Julian Renault picked up a good knockout win over Paddy Moran on the undercard. Jordan Bradshaw picked up a good win over Rory Burke. Onto the title fights, Elvis Luco picked up a good armbar victory over Kieran Brady. Aaron McDonald picked up a good decision win over Lewis Byrne, and in the main event, a great submission win for Rory Lafferty over Abam Faraz. A great event overall, wasn't it, guys? All the fights are available to watch on YouTube if you want to go back and watch them, which is great. It's hard to get these fights and to watch these fights after they go down. Some
tell you what, that's one of the best things about them is seem to run it brilliantly. Fair play, Decky McAleenan, because
they're up there instantly, and it's great.
Yeah,
to look back
me like an idiot going over to him asking where are the fights, because I'm so used to trying to chase to try find where are the fights, and they're just sitting there right on YouTube ready to go. So that is brilliant brilliant way to promote your fights. Put them on YouTube, make them accessible. No one's going to pay to watch an amateur fight 2 weeks later. So, you know, fair play.
100%. Caoilte, any takeaways from that card?
Elvis Luco, to be honest. Like he's on a bit of a tear, isn't he? Like he's 5-0 now. He's kind of finishing fights, and yeah, he's doing well. He had that win over Taylor Quinn as well, and it was for a belt as well. And now he's another one. I'm quite excited by him because he's kind of come out of nowhere almost. You know, he kind of broke through, I guess, late last year, and is kind of thriving now. And there's so many fights you see and think, geez, he could be fantastic. You could see some crackers, like. So I'm excited to see what happens with him next, and Rory Lavery as well. To go in there and do that so fast, main event as well. There's a bit of pressure when you're in a main event, like, especially as an amateur. I think that's hometown for him. I could be wrong, or it could be he could have been the home fighter. Let's say it's very tough because there's a lot of pressure on your shoulders, especially when you're young. So to go in there and do it in style and so fast, it's incredible.
Indeed.
Yeah, and Aaron McDonald as well. I think he's won something like 3 fights in the space of 5 months now, or 4 or 5 months as well. And I believe I think he's been doing a good bit of training over in Thailand as well. I saw. So, he's kind of starting to announce himself. He's only lost to Jordan Fury, and, we've kind of talked about Jordan Fury before as being a promising, talented amateur. So, another one to keep an eye on. There's lots of amateurs these days that are very much catching the radar, I guess.
Yeah, it's a really, really exciting time. And, talking about exciting matchups, exciting amateurs, like I know that you have announced and we're announcing fights this week. And, I'll just run through a few of them here. Oisin Fox versus Elvis Luco for the amateur bantamweight title.
That's a good one. Oisin Fox, his last fight.
Oisin Fox was in an absolutely unbelievable fight with
was that Taylor Quinn or who was it?
Yeah, it was. It was an unbelievable fight. He didn't get the chance to compete on the last card, but he is back and he is fighting Elvis Luco.
And class on the feet.
That's going to be a belter of a fight. I'm really excited to see that. Jordan Bradshaw versus Ronan Deegan at bantamweight. Rory Lafferty versus Andrew Barrett for the featherweight title. I mean, goodness gracious. Armand Herzog versus Aidan Boyle. Gary Rooney versus Mickey Pereira. Conor McCarthy versus Niall Wilson.
Kerry Ann Vernon versus
Sarah. Unbelievable, like fights after fight. You could name almost every fight that they've announced so far. And I credit to Ur. They're putting on some fantastic cards, as Cage Legacy are as well. Both fantastic promotions, and we're great. I'm very grateful that we have two of these promotions who are putting on the very best fights. The next Cage Legacy card was announced for June 10th. The next Ur Championship card was announced for June 4th. So we have two great events coming 1 week after the next. And credit to those guys for putting on some really, really good fights.
I need to start sending Declan Kennan my holiday schedule because I'm missing all these Cage Legacy cards.
That's it, yeah. It's great. We're in a really good time right now, Caoilte. A couple of these shows are getting up and going now. Some fantastic fights being made. Like, it's an exciting time, as we were always saying here. It's an exciting time for Irish MMA, and we have plenty of good fights to look forward to.
It's crazy. Like, there's a show nearly every weekend now. Like, and that's an overstatement, but I guess they're popping up left, right, and center. You have that new show that's coming, Cage Legacy. Or doing what their thing, and then you have Cage Conflict. They're actually matching at the moment, I've seen, so maybe a date inbound hopefully soon. You can let us know, lads, if you want. I love their cards. Premier FC, they're hinting at a few bits as well, so yeah, the scene's booming at the moment. I love it, and if they keep going at this rate, like, there's going to be lads fighting every weekend. Like, it's just it's non-stop basically, and it just shows the growth, I guess, of the sport inside the country.
Yep, it's great to see, and that kind of rounds us up for the roundup and what's been going on. It's time to move into our interview section of the show now. With Cage Warriors Belfast coming up, and two guys that are up and coming, one in the pro scene, one on the amateur scene right now, and that's Caolan and Tiarnan Loughran, who joins us right now.
Great chat, isn't it?
It's a really good chat, yeah, and we recorded before we recorded the main podcast. We really enjoyed it. I hope everybody else enjoys us too, so
Yeah, we'll break the fourth wall here just because there's a little bit of static there might be in this interview, so just bear with us for this one. There was a bit of interference on their end, so yeah, just bear with us. It's a great chat, so you'll want to listen to this one.
And now we are joined by the Lockran brothers all the way from Liverpool. How are you getting on, lads?
Good. Yeah, all good. Yeah, good.
Nice and cozy on the couch.
Just struggling with technology.
Too close for my liking area.
Close.
I've been weird how
I think
Let's wrap up. Make this good quick.
I think we're odds on that the two you could end up fighting by then.
Just get on well as brother. Are you close as brothers, or is it more of a like me and my brothers wreck each other's heads, and you know over the years you come close to blows at some point. What's your guys' relationship like?
Andy, last week this man bust my nose. We were driving up to town last week, and I told him to change the gear, and he bust my nose with the box.
I was in the middle of driving and he grabbed this fucking. He grabbed the gearbox as I was driving. We left hooked him in the middle of driving. He was going to pull the car over.
It was an automatic car. I told him you don't need to change the gear. You can just leave it and drive. And he was flicking about the gears. And I got a busted nose over.
Life threatening is what it was. Just fucking driving my car. Just fucking driving.
So not too good. Don't get on too well.
Best mates though.
Sometimes they are too.
Luckily, you can settle it all in the gym then, I guess, lads, can you?
Okay.
That's it, aye.
Or the kitchen.
Or the kitchen.
That do. Or in the jar.
Come here, lads. I have a question for you. How did you end up in Liverpool?
Want to go? It was me that came here. I was here for 10. I was here for a year and a half.
Aye,
I was here for a year and a half before him. I'll tell you the first connection I had with Team Kaobon. I lost to Nathan Fletcher the same night Darren Hill lost to Tyrone Woodley, and that night Ali McLean messaged me about my loss and how it was just positional things. And this was the same night that they had their first ever UFC world title fight in the gym, and Ali messaged me like real late because it was obviously in Vegas time, and that kind of stood to me as because Till was about like I don't know if the fight had happened or it was about to happen, but he had just about for the biggest fight in the gym's history really, and he messaged me, and then that was 228 of September I think of 2018, and then a few months went by and I was training away, and Ali messaged me in I'll tell you like December 21st, so it was I was in the Gracie Bar in Belfast. And I remember looking at my phone and he goes, would I be interested in coming over and training in Team Kaobon? It was a Friday night, I think. And I swear my life is true, during the week, we had like a BT, it was like a BT done like an inside thing, BT Sport of the gym, and it was recorded in our thing. And it was on the Kaobon. And I just liked the way Till was saying like, it's Colin's way or the highway, and then it was Colin was talking about himself. And Colin Loughran, if anyone knows him, will openly look you in the face and say, "I'm the best coach in the world." He will tell you 100%. I've been doing this 45 years, like martial arts training, and he have no doubt in it whatsoever. And I'm a confident guy myself. I love that. I think that's class. Anyone who could honestly, with no question, say, "I know I'm better." So we just really liked the way he was talking and the way the gym looked, and obviously their success. And then that was during the week, and then on the Friday night, Ali messaged me. I just remember just before I'm training the Gracie Bar, I screenshot and I said to Tiarnan, "Fucking look at this! He's my mum want me to go train him." I just meant to fight Rory Lockran in the first week of February. And I fought Rory Lockran on the Saturday, and I was on the Kaobon mats on the Wednesday. So that was that. Never look back. Best decision ever made, probably.
It was weird. It was weird how it worked out because that's the post. We were literally looking at the gym the week before and thinking we would love to train there. But then I was a bit young, so I didn't go at that time. I wasn't doing it. I literally just started MMA, so I wasn't doing it long enough. So I couldn't really. I was completely out of my depth. So then I just came kind of literally the day before lockdown started. I landed, and then I just got in through him. I didn't. That's just kind of how I got into it.
I slept in Caoban for the first 10 months, slept at the back of the gym.
Thankfully, I didn't. I got a house.
And do you have your own place now, or how does it work? Do you stay with one of the trainers, or do you just have your own gaff?
Our own house, this big massive sofa here.
On our plasma screen TV.
No, actually, to be honest, it's not house. It's like literally behind Anfield Stadium. I mean, it's more easy, but it's like it's a good wee. It's good. It's not a wee house. Like it was a fighter need really. Like.
Yeah, it does the job. As long as somewhere to recover training is all you need, isn't it?
So, Caolan, was it, you talked to yourself about being a confident guy, which I don't think anyone in Irish or UK MMA can disagree with. Was that really what drew you most to Caolan Loughran and Team Kaobon? That
Absolutely.
confidence.
But I mean, his results speak themselves too. Like way back from Terry Adams' time through to now. I mean, I'd say Tom's probably one, maybe two. I'd say probably one win away from Caolan Loughran preparing for his second UFC world title fight in 4 years. Like this side of the Atlantic, that's fucking nuts. If you really you'll get a lot of guys saying about how like your coach is the best and stuff, but that's speaks for itself. I think like this side of the Atlantic, 2 world title fights in 4 years, 2 very different styles of striking, even not just like their striking on own is very different. And you've got like Mike in the UFC, he's a pure wrestler, completely different style again. Terry Adams, a different style of fighter. Think about Kaobon, like obviously the likes of Ian Ice over to Sanford, he'd be leveling up massively. Think about Kaobon is there wouldn't be as many guys on the level of like Gilbert and Luke and stuff like that there. There's about 10 really, really, really high level guys who work like absolute animals. Then you've got guys coming in, obviously from all across Europe and the UK every week really. But it's more like hands-on with, so the likes of Tom, I would imagine, will get more time with Caolan Loughran than, I don't know, say the likes of Michael Chandler will get with Henry Hoof, stuff like this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah, and like how mad has it been, I guess, training day in, day out with the likes of Tom Aspinall, with Darren Till, Mike Grundy, these guys, and also the fact that, for the most part, it's the more prominent guys in the gym are the heavier weights, right? Whereas you guys are fighting bantamweight, lighter weights. What's that like when you're going with these Goliaths in the gym?
To be honest, though, we're just used to it because, like, I just see Tom and Till as mates now. Again, I don't really see them as these like although the two of them are like stars in the UFC now, I don't really see them as that because we kind of like more so Kieran than me, but like not really Till, more so Tom. We knew Tom even before he was in the UFC, so it's just it never really changed really. But obviously, we don't do much training with Tom. So
I never sparred Tom Hospital in my life.
Go on, you may as well. Be a bit of crack.
I couldn't reach his head.
Maybe the two of you should go in there 2-on-1 or something like that.
Get one of those like trench coats and you go on each other's shoulders.
Yeah. We're doing alright with sparring. Like we get a bit of sparring with Till in the evenings when it's a bit later in the mornings. But it'd be mostly Mike.
Mike would be the big one for us.
Yeah.
Obviously as a wrestling coach, as a freestyle wrestler, he was a Commonwealth medalist. He wrestled world champions wrestle all over the world. But as so the Kaobon cage is like really, really small, and that was the most eye-opening thing for me was the wrestling here compared to Ireland. I think with the GB guys train with us on a Friday and stuff, they come into our gym. And I think a lot of people wouldn't know that there's a lot of like really, really, really high level wrestlers here from Iran that don't have British passports yet. Seems like Makaya, all he ever fucking talks about is fucking visa. So because there's a lot of guys like that in the UK that come to our gym. That's really opened my eyes from training in Ireland was the freestyle wrestling, like the first attack, the second. It's not just a single double. Like I think most people in Ireland would not slagging it, but I think that's what I don't think a lot of guys really experienced in MMA wrestling and pure wrestling. That's the biggest eye opener I've experienced anyway.
I think the eye opener for me was the rounds. Like in Ireland, we were very lucky.
Very short period of time.
We had a great coach.
Only at the very end.
But we had good coaching. But like the big difference here is the level of the rounds you're getting. Like it's never ever an easy round. There's no real wrestling. So that's probably the biggest difference from here and back home, I would say. And the likes of that Team GB coming in, that's massive. Like.
And back home, like, what was it like training back in Ireland? And like, did you have any bodies on the mat there, or was it just kind of the two you trained together?
No,
Well,
Jim, like I work with.
I struggled, to be honest, at the end, because I wasn't. I was very young. Well, I wasn't very young, but I was pretty young. And I just turned 18, and I wasn't even driving yet. So I kind of.
You moved here.
No, before I moved here in Ireland, and I kind of was training by myself. Honestly, most of the time, we had a good wrestlers. We had a good MMA coach too, in Graham Weston, Flex MMA. But it wasn't really a professional gym. It was actually just like a Monday and Wednesday night. And then a lot of times you're just doing your own thing, which it's not really what you want as somebody who's doing the sport. I think I was doing the sport about a year.
I made one of my last weeks, but I swore my life is the truth. So I used to do a lot of my training up in Belfast. But we lived in like West Tyrone, like the far end of Tyrone. And I swore to God, I clocked up 880 miles in 1 week for training. I swore my life, going to Belfast, going to Marfell, going to fucking Dublin, going everywhere and anywhere to train. And I actually remember one of the last weeks, I was going up to unit. I was actually training with Paul Hughes. And I'd been up at like 6 a.m. to do like a PT that morning, drive to Belfast, and I was way up, and I was like, I cannot be fucking bothered in this. So that was one thing. I had to go everywhere and everywhere to get maybe a jiu-jitsu session, maybe a boxing session, and a fucking whatever it was. Whereas in Kaobon, it's all under one roof, I feel, and it's like more time to recover, and you also get like calm, get to watch instead of like a boxing coach telling you to do this, which is obviously good, training with boxing stuff like that there. But instead of one guy telling you to do this, then a wrestler tells you stand this way, then a fucking Muay Thai guy tells you stand this way. You get like a MMA coach over you all the time, which is good, I think.
And like, how does it work when you're leaving to go to Liverpool? Like, do your family how did they support that? And like, how does that conversation even come about where you're like, oh, I'm going to move away at a very young age?
What age you?
18.
He was 18, leaving his friends and family. Like, you know, like that's not who the fuck does that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I went to Liverpool with, I would guess I was 21, maybe turned 22. I'd say I had 150 quid in the bank, and I was going to sleep in the gym. Yeah. And then and my dad tells me to go. Like, my dad says, if you want to do this, you want to do it. You want to fucking do it. Yeah. So seeing people start to slag me for this year, I just look at them and think, you could not do you couldn't do what we do. People slag talking shit or fighting bums. I was like, you couldn't live a fucking day in my fucking world. You try to leave your friends and family to go pursue this dream, to go wake up on you go leave your friends and family, to go get the fucking head punched off you by Darren Hill on a Tuesday morning. It's horrible. Right, fuck it. It is what you have to do, I feel. If I thought there was good training in Team Kaobon, I never would have left back home. But I feel the level that we jumped up in the years we've been here is I don't think any MMA fighter I don't see anyone improving the way we're improving at the minute, to be honest with you. So,
but at the end of the day, you're not far from home either. Like I got a flight there the other day, and it was like it's 40 minutes. Like it's not.
I don't get the boat. Don't get the fucking boat.
That's about 10 hours.
10 hours.
We used to save ourselves for 15 quid. We used to go home once in a while. We used to get the boat. We used to take fucking 10 and a half hours to save about 8 quid.
Flying to Dubai quicker than that fucking boat.
That's ridiculous.
It's a serious commitment. It's one that, you know, a lot of people don't realize too. Like, you know, moving away from home, moving away from family, and even the commitment that you lads made, the traveling time and everything that you did back home. I mean, you know, you have to put yourselves first in the fight game, so it's important to do that. Like, and fair play to you.
100%.
Look, Caolan, in light of recent events this week, you know, we have to ask the question, not an easy one, but, you know, we noticed that your first 3 fights were with the MTK Pro Bellum banners. I mean, is that about as far as your relationship went with the promotion and with the management?
Oh, shit.
I'm just like,
leave it out.
No. I was as far as it went. I don't.
That's fair. So there was never any discussions with the management or any advice or anything taken from the MTK management side. No, that was about it as far as it went with you guys.
Aye, as far as it went.
There was never really that. You never signed it. It wasn't really.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, I mean, what's it like? I mean, like, look, I know it's an awkward. I can tell it's an awkward one for you lads, but like, as Irish fighters, like, is it mad seeing, you know, because like there's a lot of Irish fighters now that are signed with MTK and questions are gonna have to be asked considering the $5 million bounty. Like, it's not every day someone gets a $5 million bounty. Is it kind of mad for you guys to see that and be like, right, oh Jesus, I fought in an MTK show. Am I gonna get questions asked to me now? Or
As long as you don't handle it like Munir disease, we'll be alright. What the fuck was he talking about?
What's he doing? What was he
Yeah,
doing?
it was-
I don't know. I think you're best just like with us. We've got nothing to do with it, really.
Honestly.
It's got absolutely nothing to do with us. But like, I think you're better just leaving it in a way. Anyway, just saying, just you know nothing about it, and we actually don't know anything
I
about
don't
it.
know about it. Like, I
we're,
fucking not an MMA fight. I was told to fight on this show. Like, what the fuck?
we're literally nothing to do with MTK, really. Like, so.
yeah, no, that's fair enough. And come here. Another one, Caolan, and I have to commend you because I listened to your post-fight speech, or not speech, post-fight interview with Edith LaBelle at Cage Warriors, and I'm sure you mentioned you've listened to the podcast. I'm sure you've heard us talk about this, but your first few opponents, right? I'm sure you're you're probably blue in the face talking about the level of competition that you faced, and the fact that, let's be honest, they were essentially cans. Like, in comparison to a solid fighter like yourself or anyone in Irish MMA, they're just not up to the same standard. When you look back, what was your perspective on taking those fights?
Lads, announce me as 0-0. I don't give a flying fuck. And as far as anyone in Irish MMA trying to let me, lads, work away. I don't give a fuck. That Will Kearns and all that there's absolute shit. I trained 3 times a day in Team Kaobon, get the head punched up, and you think I want to fucking take him? I was meant to fight your boy Caolan McVeigh. He's like, I don't even know, trained in Aspire. I just want to know he was making his pro debut, representing England like the IMMAFs and all this shit. He's alright, like he's not, I wouldn't beat him, but like he's like a big amateur background and stuff. He pulls out on fight week. Sorry, he pulled out, I was meant to fight him on Almighty. He pulls out on the Wednesday, or the Tuesday, the week before fight week. And your boy Red Thompson reckoned he couldn't rematch me. So I went on Colin's MTK show. And it was fight weekend. And I was like, who's he going to get? So, like, I don't care. That shit announced me it was absolute shit. And I say, if you want to announce me as 0-0, 1-0, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to be Cage World Champion this year, so work away. Actually, well, there's one time last year I fought a boy. He was an ADCC brown belt world champion. He's now a black belt. He's Jack Ramonson, jiu-jitsu coach. It was his debut in MMA. Who the fuck wants to tell me that cunt's an easy fight?
First he was 6.
No way Aaron can fucking wrestle. How would you beat him?
He was about 6'4". He was a fucking
6'4".
giant.
But that announced me as 0-0. I don't care. I don't give a fuck.
Well, there's no questions about your competition now in Cage Warriors, and we'll talk to you about your Cage Warriors debut a little bit more, Caolan, down the line. Tiernan, I want to talk to you about your last fight with Teddy Stringer. You know, we had a little bit of a chat on Instagram about how the fight went. I looked at the fight, you know, 2 good guys going against one another, 2 top prospects, but you took a full-blown kick to the face at the start of the fight, and I think you did well to even to recover and get back in there and fight, to be honest. Can you explain that exchange? Because to me, looking at the video looked edited. We don't really know what kind of happened from when the kick happened to when the fight actually restarted. So can you kind of explain in your own words, like, what happened there and how you're feeling and your thoughts about that fight?
Just didn't go my way. Just didn't go my way from the start. Like, he came out. I was actually watching it back. I thought it happened like later in the fight. Not that I was like, I don't know. I just thought like more happened before, but it literally came out. He like hit me a calf kick, which I actually felt. It was a hard kick. I actually felt the calf kick, and it like took me off my feet. And then he, I suppose I was like fully down, and then I threw a kick. It's like, I don't know. It was weird. It's hard to know what he was like.
He put a 45 in his fucking forehead.
Literally.
Yeah, like it just looked like he kind of just lost control of himself for a minute. It was a full-blown soccer kick to the head. Like, I mean, that's the only way that I could describe it.
It was weird. I honestly have no idea what he meant to do, but like, he hit it, and I would be lying if I said it didn't flash me. Like it did. It flashed because I didn't see it. Like, I honestly didn't even know what it was at the time. It was like that quick. Like, I was off my feet and then it hit me and I didn't see the kick. And then I got up and I kind of looked down. You'll see, like, I kind of looked down at Caolan and Colin and Mike in my corner. I'm like, what the fuck was that? Like, obviously that was illegal. And then I just walked to like the neutral corner then, and I was just trying to get like, see, you know, in a way I didn't really know what to do. I was like, will I just get on with it? Because obviously I'm still quite inexperienced, and nothing like that's ever really happened to me.
Yeah.
So,
was the doctor called in?
No, nah. It was so weird. It was like the referee went to Stringer, and it's like it's nearly as if he had more sympathy for him than he did for me. I don't know what was going on. He came over and he like gave him a hug, and he's like, "Oh, don't do that again." And I remember exactly what he said to me. He walked over to me, and I was in the corner, and I was a wee bit like, "What the fuck was that?" And he goes to me, "Are you okay to continue?" And I kind of like looked down to Caolan and Caolan. I was like, obviously I said yes because I was okay to continue, but like in a way I didn't know if he meant like, are you okay to continue like right now, or are you okay to continue in a couple of minutes? Like, I wasn't really sure, and I goes yes, and then next thing goes like, are you ready? Are you? And then that was it. We were back going.
So no doctor,
yeah, my understanding of the situation would be you took an illegal shot, so the referee should be calling a doctor in, and the doctor should be assessing you to see if you're okay and make sure there's no concussion or anything like that, and then the referee and the doctor will make that decision. So by the sounds of things, it looks to me that you were kind of a little bit pressured and a little bit rushed back into making this.
In the head illegally. And
what was you had a view from the side of the cage, Caolan? What's your opinion on the situation?
So you never want to say like a reasons why he lost, but when he got kicked in the head, I actually got like nervous. I thought, because I seen him fall back like a rock. I was like, oh fuck, he's getting knocked out here. So I should wrestle, like drive a signal on him, rest on top, and start to recover on top, because I knew the referee had rushed him. But the reality of the situation is that you don't know. I don't give a fuck. And it was like he got very illegally kicked on top of the head, bare shin, which would obviously rock anyone because you're not fucking expecting that. And about 50 seconds after that, the fight was over.
It's a mad one because like and like obviously we're all Irish here, so I mean you'll have people saying, oh, they're just biased, but what it reminded me of was do you remember Alan Philpott fought Shea Walsh in Barra? And it was the exact same thing basically, except Philpott gets disqualified, and then as we were saying, like we were just saying, right, Jesus, we didn't know what kind of, obviously the fight went on and you lost, but like it looked worse, the shot that you took, than the one that Philpott threw against Walsh.
We were, because Aljamain Sterling versus Petr Yan was the next week, and we were watching all the build-up, and obviously they were showing the illegal knee, you know. And I goes to Caolan, we were watching, I goes, do you think, like, all the hype that was made over that, like, all the time he was given, that fight was stopped for about 5 minutes. I goes to Caolan, do you think that knee was worse than the kick I took? And we were like, it actually definitely wasn't. It was a full kick, like a full shin. Like, I am 100% not saying that's the reason I lost the fight, but I'm saying, like, the way that referee, like the referee actually added me on Facebook the next day, like literally like 2 hours, maybe that night, like 2 hours after, and I was expecting like an apology or something, or like a reason, but like absolutely nothing. And like obviously I'm not saying that's why I lost the fight, but I'm just saying like that should have been dealt with.
It was something that would have had a massive. It was something that would have had a massive impact on the fight, in my opinion. And look, at not to take anything away from Teddy either, an excellent fighter, and the decisions that the referee makes is nothing to do with him. And you know he had to do what he had to do. So I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but me looking at the fight, that's one thing that really stood out to me, and the fact that the video was edited, I wanted to get your guys' perspective on it, because I
didn't like that. I didn't like that from Almighty, and the fact that like I didn't like the way they edited the video, and I didn't like the way they gave him performance of the night, because like realistically, fuck me, it wasn't like, I think a lot of people said that, but like I don't know, like it's one of the things that just happened. You kind of just have to get on with it, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Tiarnan, looking ahead into your future, I guess. Look, what are the plans to stay at amateur for another little while? Are you looking at turning pro soon, or what does it look like for you right now?
No, realistically, I don't even think, like, not that I'm not close to going pro, but I need a lot more experience, because I only started this sport at 17. I'm 21 now. I only started at 17, and I had nothing before. Like I had no boxing, anything. I went straight to MMA. So like so I had about 4 fights, and then COVID hit. So we had about a 2-year break, and then, or about 16 months, something it was. And then I had another, 3 fights. So, although I'm gonna try and rattle out a lot of fights this year, like I've told my coach and stuff, like I wanna be active. I wanna get as much fights as I can, and just keep getting experience. But I wouldn't be that long to pro, but I want to get at least 4 or 5 more fights anyway.
Caolan, just to touch on the Cage Warriors debut that you had, how do you rate your performance for that fight, and like what was it like to make your debut?
Performance was like it was alright. Like the guy wasn't the best. Tried some weird things. Like I tried. Do you want to know the honest truth? This is why we're actually even told him. I immediately came out of the cage, and what's such a weird thing. It's like I was thinking Tiarnan would have punched my head in there. That's what I was thinking, because he was like backing me up, and I was like, why am I like? I thought for some reason that when I came out of the cage that I'd been beating the feet, like he'd outstruck me or something, but he hadn't when I watch it back. So I just need to this experience, need to learn maybe calmness or something. I don't know why I thought that. Then he tried some takedowns. I tried some stupid Ushimatas. I was maybe a bit too safe on top, stuff like this. So overall, it wasn't the hardest fight, but it was an alright performance. But to be on Cage Wars, it was I was saying there, you notice a big change from like the local scene and the amateur scene to being on Cage Wars. It's like a completely different platform. Like even stuff like this, like I've podcast every day this week, really, I think. And every time I log on my phone, some bantamweight's fucking calling me out or something at the minute. So it's like, it's good that way.
I know. I think you do your fair share of call outs yourself.
So it starts every single one.
You've called out every man in Ireland at this point, Caolan.
These bantamweights are calling me out.
But no, but to be fair, a few of them have.
Go on then. Who do you want next? Give us the call out.
Luke Riley. That's who I want to fight next.
Oh, that's a great fight.
Oh, that's a great fight.
That's some fight. That's a serious fight.
I absolutely promise you it's not.
Go on, tell us how.
I reckon Hamzat and John Phillips is compatible with me and Luke Riley. I swear, my God, I will kill that kid so quick. That lad's grappling 2.5 years, and you want to put him in a cage, me and MMA. I promise you that's not a close fight. But I think for that reason they won't take it. I don't think his coaches will take that fight. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Rimmer and Alessandro look at me and think Luke would knock you clean out. Maybe, I don't know. If you want to try, lads, I'm here in Belfast. I would love to fight Luke Riley in Belfast after that post, because that British MMA scene put up that thing to me and him, and these people, everyone's commenting, Luke by murder. Keelan's not ready for Luke. Keelan fights bombs. So I will absolutely fight Luke Riley in Belfast if he would take it 100,000,000%. And I promise you that will not be competitive.
Have you had any word from Cage Warriors about Belfast yet?
Yeah, I've been selling tickets. I've had a link from the tickets. They made me a wee animation thing. I'm fighting on it, but no word of an opponent yet. If Luke doesn't happen, I'll fight Wesley Maya.
That's a big step up with Wesley Maya. Would you fight anyone in Ireland? Because you call out a lot of guys around the Irish MMA scene, as you were saying.
Who is there? Really? I seen Taka got signed, but the only bantamweight in Ireland I like to face Gallagher, but he's way to Bellator. What's the point?
Why do you want Luke Riley specifically? Is it because Luke's 3-0 and because he had a solid performance there the last time?
Good. No, it's because they got tied underneath that post now, telling me that I'm not. I would get annihilated and stuff like this here. I was like, what are you talking about? But he's a good striker. I seen his fighting over in Thailand years ago and stuff, and Cage Wars breakthrough fight of the year. They have a post, A Star Is Born, stuff like this here. So,
but why? Because I think he put up the post originally saying what's next, and you jumped in saying me.
No,
was that not how it started?
No, someone tied me underneath it, and then he.
Okay, right. Okay, and so. Because look, there's so many different potential matchups and call-outs. You're saying him right now. Why out of him? Let's say you're talking about Taka. You've had
Taka.
No,
I've seen you say
why Luke Riley though.
I've seen you say Kingsley Crawford as well.
Kingsley will be good. You boys want the shit talk. Yeah, they want to hear Kingsley will be good.
We're just trying to keep up.
I would say that Kingsley will fight Nathan for a vacant belt if Dominic is away to the Contender Series. So say that does happen, right? I would think if I beat Luke Riley, I'm close to that, not too far off a belt already. So say I beat Luke in Belfast, I won a #1 contender fight, whoever that was, in September, and then I'd want to win the belt in December. So I think the Luke win will put me way up the division. I think, really. He's really the only other bantamweight that's making noise at the minute. That's what I think. We could crack too.
Come here, what's the story with the this is for both of you now, I think it is. What's with the beef between yourselves and, is it Matt Elliott and Glenn McVeigh? I've seen a lot of this going on.
I literally just
Don't worry about them two. Jesus.
You're not worried about them two. We've run into them two a few times. The beef, it wasn't too bad. Like, they didn't seem too interested in me, you know.
No fucking beef in person.
There's no beef in person, so.
I went to fight. I met Glenn at a Clan Wars show one time in the Ulster Hall after I fought Doran one time, and mine up there.
That's right. I
was on my phone, and I seen that Glenn had been videoing me somewhere. He goes, avoiding him or something. I was like, what is going on here? And as I'm looking at my phone, I look up and there's that fucking hard on stand in front of me. So I go like push him, and the fucking security team comes around me.
I swear to God, I went for a pint, and I swear to God, Quebec was about. I was literally away for about 2 minutes, and he said, "Oh, just grab Glenn." I just threw. What did you say? I grabbed him by the throat and threw Glenn out of the road. I goes, "What? I missed the whole thing. Absolutely shit."
Don't worry about them two boys, annoying.
Tiarnan, is there anyone that you're interested in fighting next? What's the next move for you?
I don't know, because like I have been on the go this year. See, that was probably one of the biggest problems in this fight. Like, I was on the go from December. I was supposed to fight George Staines in February. He pulled out, and then I got told I'm fighting Curtis Campbell in April. And it was a complete disaster. It was like, I done my whole camp. George Staines basically pulled out on fight week, and then I had to go into straight another camp. And then anyway, I started my camp for Curtis Campbell, and then that fight just didn't happen. Nothing to do with me. That fight just didn't happen. Got told then I'm fighting Teddy Stringer, and then like that was all about 16 or 13, 14 weeks, and the camp was just fucking. It was so long, but then like I don't know. I don't really know where that leaves me. I still want to fight the top guys. Like, I still want to get that Staines fight, but the one thing is, I don't want to fight at lightweight. I'm not a lightweight. Like, I'm a weird this week. Like, it was nearly as if I didn't know what to do with myself. Like, people were saying like, "Oh, what are you gonna do for your weight cut?" Because I had about fucking maybe 3 kilos to lose, and I was like, I nearly don't know what I'm gonna do. I really don't know how I'm gonna lose it. So like, the one thing is definitely certain is my next fight's gonna be at featherweight, and as high ranked as guys I can get. That's what I want. I want to be tested as much as I can as an amateur. So if that George Staines fight is still there for a belt, I'll take that. If the Campbell's fight's there, whoever, Max Lally, fucking, there's all this hype in Max Lally. I'm hearing Max Lally's the best amateur in Ireland. Like, give me that fight, boys. Although he's a lightweight too, but give me that fight. I'll show you who's the best amateur in Ireland, because it's not even that much of a conversation. I would smoke Max Lally. Smoke him. It wouldn't even be close, and he knows that.
I think he'd choke you out.
Well, he may sweep me with a calf kick and then boot me in the head. And then
Lads, who do you like in Irish MMA? Maybe that's a better question.
Oh, jeez.
Like, who would you say like are the best prospects right now? Apart, you can't say yourselves. Who are the best prospects in Irish MMA?
Paul is flying. Paul's very good.
Paul's very good. Paul's very well rounded. No, there's a lot. Like, you've got Aaron McDonald. We're real good friends with Aaron McDonald. He's playing. Aaron's 8-1. There's no talk with him. He was supposed to fight Max Lally. Max Lally pulled out.
I actually rate Matthew Elliott.
I'm not. Irish MMA's flying. Ian's obviously absolutely flying. Love to see him doing well. He won. I thought he looked very good the other day.
Hope Dean gets the win next week too. A lot of guys giving him a lot of very better guys in Ireland towards him. Hope he fucking knocks Mike Jackson clean out. So
that's the one thing about us. I would never be better towards anyone Irish MMA. Like, if I see, like, me and Matthew, I'd never gone the best, but if it's like our Glenn, but I would never want to see them lose ever. It's kind of just like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, the shit talk is the shit talk, but it's a bit of crack as well, and it creates a bit of hype and stuff. But no, I
Gives
mean,
us something to talk about.
exactly. I mean, it must be exciting for the two of you to be kind of really stuck in the middle of Irish MMA and the way it's kind of transgressing. Now, I think we're in a really good state when it comes to Irish MMA overall, and there's a lots of potential amateurs and professionals really looking to make the jump onto the bigger shows, and I think it's great that you two lads are there and that you're involved with everybody else that's there too. But it must be really exciting for you, is it?
No, it's deadly, lad. It seems Cage Wars, like, it seems going to be the next show's going to be in Belfast, and I just can't wait to be a part of it, to be honest, because like over the COVID, being on the outside and watching guys in Ireland rise up like Ian and Paul and that there, so just now to be in the middle of it and to be preparing for the biggest show in a long time in Ireland, is class. I actually have a question for you lads. What are you looking forward to more, Bellator Dublin or Cage Wars Belfast?
Oh, Cage Wars Belfast for me.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. Cage Wars.
I-
Same with that.
I like it. Both. It's great to see guys get the platform on both those shows. But to me, honestly, what Cage Warrior shows for me are always special. To be honest, you know.
But I don't know if you, but like over them, that's why I'm so happy to get the contract, because like over the COVID pandemic, we were honestly looking forward to the trilogies as much as probably them Apex UFC cards, like, so.
Yeah.
To be a part of it, like, it's class. Can't wait.
We won't keep you too much longer, lads. Just before you go, maybe from Tiarnan first, and then maybe from yourself, Caolan. How would you like to see the rest of your 2022 play out?
Experience, no more losses, 100%. I'm off. See, I was going to be off the flying star. I was going to be out in February, and then the plan was to go in April again. But like, so I would have been flying, getting experience. But I just want to get straight back out there. There's shows coming up in May. I definitely want to be on them. If there was a Cage Wars Academy on that Belfast, although I haven't heard anything about it, so I don't think there is. But that's all I want in 2022. I just want loads of experience and to get maybe 4 or 5 wins on my belt, and then see where I'm at. If I'm ready to go pro, I'm ready to go pro. If I'm not, I'm not. I think I'm good. I think I'm nearly, maybe I'm close to good enough to go pro now, level wise. I just need that experience. So that's my plan for 2022. Just loads of experience.
And yourself, Caolan?
I'm going to be the Cage Wars Bantamweight champion this year. 100% going to be Cage Wars Bantamweight champion. I want to have it in December. I don't want anything too fast. I don't want anything too rushed. I also want to earn it, because like I've been watching Cage Wars for nearly 10 years now, and I've like all them like from Nathaniel Wood and Josh Reed and the Indigo right from Cage Wars 51. I want to earn it, so I want to have good competition, good wins in Belfast, whoever the number one contender is in September, and then hopefully, please God, it'll be Nathan Fletcher for the belt in December.
Nice. Well, we won't keep you any longer, lads. Exciting future, exciting 2022s for both of you. We'll be watching closely. Thanks very much for joining us today on the Auld Triangle. We really appreciate you taking the time. Great interview, and we can't wait to have you back again somewhere down along the line. I'm sure there'll be plenty of talking points throughout your career, and we will.
And don't be punching Tiarnan in the car now anymore. Come on now.
He busted the nose clean open. Like, it wasn't even.
Jesus.
I didn't even speak after. We kind of just looked at each other. I was like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
Like, or one week off out of the gym, and I leave with a busted nose. What the fuck? Disgraceful.
Unreal.
I'm back at home, Ma. We were home at home. Back in Toulon.
Jeez, it'll get serious if Mammy Lockran gets involved.
So get the wooden spoon out.
Blue peg.
All right, lads. We won't keep you any longer. Thanks a million for joining us.
Thanks, boys.
All the best to you guys.
See you later, boys.
And there we have it. The Lockran brothers. Great chat. Tiarnan and
boils.
Caolan. Yeah, thanks for joining us. And it was great to chat to them, and I'm sure that we'll be chatting to them further down the line again, like we said in the interview, which we'll go on to the news roundup now. So I guess the biggest news that stemmed regarding to Irish MMA this week was that of the sanctions laid down by the US government and Department of the Treasury on the Keenan gang. you know, obviously there's links between MTK Global and Daniel Kinahan in the past. The sanctions are not on MTK Global, they're on the Kinahan cartel. There has been a $5 million bounty put on the head of Daniel Kinahan and his representatives. And, you know, it's a kind of a big deal with, you know, links to MTK. And I know I'm going to bring you in there just to kind of give a little bit of kind of a background on the history and kind of the connections between the two, and some of the ramifications maybe that will affect Irish MMA.
Yeah, I mean, like I suppose when you look at this, it's historically been a boxing issue, right? So you know, Daniel Kinahan and Matthew Macklin founded MGM Global. I think it was back in 2012 or something like this over in Marbella. This then transformed into MTK Global, and it's since moved from Spain to the UAE. And I suppose how, you know, we've all seen, you know, the likes of Tyson Fury, you know, posing for photos with Daniel Kinahan and him being involved in these massive deals in boxing, and you know, promoters like Bob Arum and others. I think, you know, there was a photo even recently with the WBC president. Anyway, a big influence in boxing. So many Irish fighters signed up in boxing, but it hasn't really been, thankfully, there hasn't been as much of a move into MMA. Now, that being said, I believe that MTK first made their move into MMA in 2017 by signing Darren Till. And since then, they have been growing their MMA base. So you see fighters, and why the reason why we're talking about it today is there are a number of Irish fighters signed to MTK.
I'd like to just add a statement that was made by the Garda Commissioner Drew Harris this week after the sanctions were laid down, and he said, in terms of some individuals, prominent sporting individuals who are some way connected with this grouping, I would say look at your sport, your fans, and think of your own reputation, because this is a very serious announcement today after a large amount of work. A very solid and to the point statement as well, and like you said, Andy, if you can continue, this will have some ramifications.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, right, like you fighters, look, there's MTK MMA as far as the promoter or the management company goes, and then there's also MTK Strong MMA gym over in Dubai. And while you could have fighters saying, you know, we've nothing to do with this, we're just here to fight, all these things. All right, yeah, fair enough. But the fact of the matter is, MTK are the three letters that are written across it, and so there's no real denying here that there's an association. I mean, when it comes to, you know, MTK have distanced themselves from Daniel Kinahan for a long time, but then he's there as an advisor, quote unquote, to these fighters. And you know, you have the head coach of MTK, and this is on the boxing side now. MTK put out a statement saying we've no ties to Daniel Kinahan, and then a day later, or whatever it was, 2 days ago, they're posting a photo with him. So it's just, it doesn't really wash. And additionally, for fighters training out of MTK Strong MMA, last night in the UFC, Munir Laziz, who is one of the you know, primary or the most high profile fighters coming out of that gym, he made a point to grab the mic off Daniel Cormier after his post fight interview to shout out his good friend Daniel Kinahan, and then double down on those comments in the media scrum afterwards. So that puts a massive spotlight to say, well, okay, we thought this was a boxing issue, but now is it an MMA issue? Is it a case that, you know, if he's saying it and he's posting photos back in 2018 beside Daniel Kinahan, he's, by his own admission, is a close friend outside and an advisor for his career, and has done great things for his career. So then, you know, you could have all these fighters, Irish fighters, for example, who may train over there or be managed, and they may have nothing to do with Daniel Kinahan. But now the question comes up as well, this fighter does, clearly through his own admission. So now we have to kind of ask, like, do you also? And it's a tough one, because I think that, like, look, fighters, there are very few opportunities for fighters. You're in a sport where you're taking brain trauma on a daily basis for very little reward. So I can completely understand why, if someone was presented with an opportunity to go out to somewhere like Dubai, where the standard of life is probably incredible, you're probably getting really good training out there, you're probably living a life to a higher standard than you would in Ireland. Like, we all know to an extent what it's like living in Ireland, where you're paying massively high rents, not that much as far as opportunities, that there may be more opportunities out there, and it may be beneficial to your career, and you could have absolutely nothing to do with this. And a lot of people would say, you know, I'm just here to fight, I don't know anything about it. But unfortunately, that just doesn't wash anymore. Like, whether you knew about it before or not, the fact of the matter is, this is not my opinion, I'm just stating a fact here. A $5 million bounty has been put on their head because they've been deemed as, like, quote unquote, not coming from me now, this is from the US Treasury, a murderous organization is what they called it, and put sanctions put on them to the same level as the Yakuza. So these are the facts. This is not opinion anymore. You could hide behind whatever, you know, what has or hasn't been convicted or anything like that, but in the high courts in Ireland, the US Treasury, these are the facts. So unfortunately, or fortunately, you know, whatever way you want to look at it, you can't really just use the excuse of I don't know anymore, because if you're not seeing it now, then you're burying your head in the sand and you're choosing to ignore it. So I'm not here to say this fighter should do that, or, you know, to lay blame on any fighters, but this is the reality of the situation, and questions are going to be asked and decisions need to be made. So that's not for me. It's not for me to make any of those decisions, and I hope I'm not belaboring the point here, but this isn't going away.
They're leaving
it seems
themselves open, like you said, for those difficult questions. And I mean, there is no hiding place right now when the facts are out there. And, you know, Caoilte, there's a couple of big decisions that are going to have to be made. Like, you know, as Andy said there's a lot of Irish MMA fighters who are managed by MTK right now, and there's going to be a couple of big decisions that are going to have to be made down the line. And it's just huge news this week, and it'll have huge ramifications overall, because it's not going to stop here.
No, and the fact that this could cross into MMA now as well, and specifically in this case Irish MMA, from the ties to certain fighters, and with them being signed to MTK as their manager or as their management. So it would be interesting to see if some fighters will make the decision to leave and find new management, or will they continue, or will they even make a statement about it? So I imagine there'll be some conversations that have probably been ongoing this week following everything that's come out, and I imagine these conversations will continue, and it'd be interesting to see if fighters continue the relationship with MTK, and if some
and look at boxing. Sorry, I don't mean to cut across.
No,
Look at
you're fine.
boxing. Like, you have Paddy Barnes and Michael Conlan distancing themselves from it. You have Tyson Fury now seeking legal advice around this. You have ESPN dropping the MTK show that was on at the weekend there. These big organizations are taking action. Bob Arum essentially throwing the Kinhuns under the bus and saying, I believe it was with the Irish Mirror, he did an exclusive interview saying that the Kinnan is 100% in control. Now, those are Bob Arum's words. 100% in managing the data, in control of MTK Global. So,
I mean, there was talks of, look, as the news broke, Andy, during the week, talks of media boycott and this and that, and not giving the fighters the exposure, which, is probably not the route to go down. In some realms, I think, it's not giving them like a media, ignoring them in the media. It's more so you have to go along the lines that if you do give them the exposure, that they're going to have to expect some of those difficult questions.
Absolutely. I mean, how come? Say if I was to interview, or you were to interview, or any of us were to interview someone who's now signed to MTK or whatever, you have to. It's not like that I want to. I don't want any of this to even be. I wish none of this was a thing. Like, I don't want to talk about this at all. I wish none of this was a reality, but it is, and that's like, that is reality. So yeah, like, I agree with you. I don't think that boycotting is the right. Now, I don't know if I'm right either. I don't know what the right answer is here. I don't think that boycotting is the right answer. But the questions do need to be asked. And I know the MMA side, it's small fish in comparison to the boxing side by all means. But that doesn't mean that it's not clean. Or like, it doesn't mean that it is clean, rather. It's because there's connections there.
It's hard enough. You're talking about in Ireland right now, trying to get the sport legalized and trying to shine a good light on the sport. And, this kind of stuff, it doesn't shine a good light on it. And if things escalated further, it would further shine a darker light on the sport and kind of put another hurdle up on maybe the legalization of the sport. And I don't think that anybody wants that. I don't want that. I don't think you guys want that too. We all want all of our fighters to progress in a sport that's recognized by the government and to be successful and be supported in that decision as well. But it's something that we had to bring up, we had to talk about.
And here's the other thing: some fighters who are coming out and saying he's done amazing things for me, he's done this or that, or has really helped my career. They may be right, like that's their experience, and that could be the truth also. But it doesn't take away from the rest. It doesn't wash away the rest of it. So like that could be the case. And the sad part is fighters should be getting this type of treatment. They should be getting treated well, but it needs to be in a
at what cost?
I wish there was a better alternative. I wish it was coming from a different source.
Indeed. Well, look, we had to bring it up. Not an easy topic to talk about. It'll be interesting to see how things progress. And, there's some big decisions to be made. But moving on to maybe a little bit more positive news and something that we can look forward to in Irish MMA, and that's the debut of Dean Barry in the UFC this coming weekend. He is fighting Mike Jackson in the welterweight division, and coming in for his first UFC fight against Mike Jackson. Look, at the way it is he's going to be facing stiffer competition in future fights than Mike Jackson. The expectation here for me is for Dean Barry to go in there and to get the win against Mike Jackson. I think that's the way the UFC has set the matchup up for him to go in there and maybe to showcase his ability. Andy, what are your thoughts on the fight? You spoke to Dean Barry during the week there before he headed out for Vegas. It was a really good interview. You can watch that on the SevereMMA YouTube channel if you haven't seen it already. You were there in Team Rhino. You got to speak to him face to face, and he gave you a good interview. And what's your expectations and what was your thoughts on the interview itself?
I mean, well, first things first, flights to China aren't cheap, so you'd hope that he wins this weekend, because he said he's packing his bags, he's deleting his social media accounts and everything if he was to get sparked by Mike Jackson. It was good to talk to Dean. I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets on. But yeah, look, Dean said it to me himself. He doesn't know why this Mike Jackson fight is happening. He's, what he said in the interview is that he was confused as to why the kind of the focus on Mike Jackson from the UFC matchmakers. So it's a bit of a bizarre one. You would expect Dean to go in there and get the finish. I mean, anything other than obviously anything other than a victory is I mean, a loss is catastrophic, to be honest. But I think he has to put him away here, right? Like, Mike Jackson is no disrespect, but like, he's just not he's not a full-time fighter. He's a journalist, a part-time fighter. No one really knows why he's in the UFC still. He was obviously, kind of served up as an opportunity to get CM Punk a win. Didn't materialize. So Dean, I am interested to see how he gets on, but it's all a bit confusing for me in the sense that I don't know what the plan is here. I'm excited to see Dean in there. I'm excited to see another Irishman in there. I'm excited to see if there's any improvements in his wrestling game. He talked about in the interview about the work that he's been doing at Team Rhino with regards to wrestling and jiu-jitsu. So it'll be interesting to see if there are improvements there. He obviously comes from a striking background. And yeah, we'll see what happens.
The plan for me is to get him in there, get him in the door. Give him a winnable fight against a winnable opponent. Hopefully, Dean has said it himself that they're keen on him. They like the skills that he possesses, and they see him as being a marketable fighter. And he has the perfect opportunity to kind of showcase that now on Saturday night when he goes in there. I think, Caoilte, it's fair to say that we probably all would agree that this is one test for Dean Barry, probably a test that he's going to pass, and he should pass with ease. But the real test will come after this fight.
Yeah, like it's a strange one, especially because it's at welterweight as well, and he's already said that that the weight's not for him. He's he doesn't have to cut any weight, and he's thinking of featherweight. So it's a strange one because it's a fight he should win, and it'd be, as Andy said, loss would be catastrophic. But if you're looking ahead or looking past this fight, it's who you're looking at, who you match him with, and he's still quite early, so you'd be looking at someone that maybe is just in off the contender series, and that's when we really see what level he's at, I think, and that's where he'll meet the tougher tests. He could come up against someone who may be able to test that wrestling that he or even someone who might be able to test his striking, because that's where we're well aware he's the strongest. So it's an interesting fight, and it's an interesting kind of like signing at the same time. So let's see what happens, because if it works out, it could be very big for him, but it could also go the complete opposite direction.
Indeed. It'll be interesting to see how Dean gets on this Saturday night at UFC Vegas 52. I believe he's the first fight on the card, so
nice time for Irish fans.
Nice time for Irish fans. You'll be able to tune in, I believe, on I'm sure it'll be on UFC Fight Pass if anybody wants to tune in and look at it. Overall, it's great to see an Irish fighter in there, flying the flag in the UFC again.
We don't get many these days. This is a good thing.
Exactly. So this is a good thing, and it'll be interesting to see how Dean gets on, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. Okay, Andy, there's been a couple of fights announced this week too, a couple of fights coming up this weekend as well. Just take us through a few announcements that have happened over the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, so Konstantin Nusarev, I think it goes by Kosti in the gym in SBG. He's taken on Lindgren in, I'm not going to lie, forgetting his first name, in Finland. So he's fighting over in Finland on the 23rd. So that's this coming weekend. So it'll be interesting to see him back. He had a good fight with, I remember he fought Ian Coughlin in one of the Bellator Dublin shows a couple of years ago. And he looks like a very solid wrestler and a decent fighter. So I'll be interested to see how he gets on. And then also Pavel Politilo, butchered that name, maybe not, is fighting Patrick Trobak on KSW this weekend also. So another SPG guy. I think that's pretty much it for this week. Well, obviously apart from Dean Barry, but there's not a whole lot of Irish action apart from that, which is obviously there is a bit of Irish action, but
a couple of fights for the UK Championship are announced for May 22nd. Nadine Abbott-Bissett is going to be back in action against Hayley Heather. Owen MacDonald, Michael Shields, Fergal Shivers, Damien McGuigan of FAI also set to fight on that card. Paddy Symes from Team Rhino is going to be fighting on that card too. We'll talk about that.
So just forget everything I just said. It's a shitload.
Fair play.
That's not till May though.
You got to pronouncing it. That's why I handed it over to you, man, because I didn't want to try and pronounce those names myself. I'm the master butcherer of names, but
I was made walk the plank this week.
Exactly. And as we mentioned earlier in the podcast, Alex Josan is set to fight on Battle Arena with Byron Murphy from Full Power Gym. That was going to be taking place in May, and we'll talk a little bit more about those fights.
I think they're teammate. I think they're not fighting each other, but they're
they're teammates heading over to fight unnamed opponents. Yeah. So that brings us on to what we briefly mentioned at the start of the podcast, and we are going to fantasy matchmake the Belfast card for Cage Warriors. We all got together and decided that we were going to put together a main card and a prelims card for the Cage Warriors Belfast card, fights that we would like to see. And let's get to it, I guess. Who wants to go first? Lads?
You go first, Ian, right? Because I have yours on screen, and let me share my screen.
Yep, no problem. So we all got together and we decided we were going to try and put together a card that we would like to see. We call it fantasy matchups, but really these are all possible matchups, ones that we would like to see. And I'll share my card first, and we'll go from bottom to top. And I went with Takamandu versus Rhys McKeown. McKeown just signed. McKeown, excuse me. he's just signed with both of them just signed with Cage Warriors, so it will be interesting. I think that it is a fair matchup. You don't want to be putting Taka in there with anyone too experienced on his debut, so both guys are at a similar level. Omran Shaban against George McManus, I think that'd be a great fight in the welterweight division. I know it's listed as middleweight there. Leon Hill versus Patrick McCurry. McCurry would be a new signing. We've introduced a couple of new signings.
Irish on Irish actioning. What's going on here?
Look at it. Despite look at they do.
You just hate Irish fighters, do you? You just want them to. You want to see them fail.
I think it's a great matchup between two promising prospects in the pro ranks. I'd love to see that fight. I think they match up really well. In the lightweight division, I'd like to see Adam Shelley versus Adam.
That's a great
Cullen.
call, Ian. That's a great call.
I'd like to see that fight. I think that'd be a great fight. A fight of a new signee, which would be one of my favorite fights, and that would be Ger Harris versus Lonier Kavanagh.
That's a beauty.
I would love to see that fight, and I think it'd be a cracker. It'd be pure violence between two phenomenal strikers. A guy that joined us on the podcast today, Caolan Loughran. I'd like to see him against Kingsley Crawford. I know Caolan himself mentioned Luke Riley, which would be also a great fight, but I mean,
that'd be a big step up in competition. That's I like that. It
would be a good step up in competition, but Caolan thinks that he's capable of it. I'd like to see it, and that bantamweight division is wide open right now. Ryan Shelley versus Manny Akpan. I would love to see Manny Akpan with that stunning knockout in the last.
Ian, you have some fantastic matchups. I just want to say that right now. You have some fantastic matchups on here.
Thank you very much. I wonder, is that because we have maybe some similar that we might see later on? Open up and I mean, these are we had to pick the main card. We had to pick the prelims. So I can't believe that you've just put all these. I can't believe this. For putting you on the prelims.
So you like all these main card fighters more than the prelim fighters. That's what I'm hearing here.
Stop.
That doesn't apply when I do mine later on now. But
yeah. In no particular order is what we should have done. But how's it ever? James Sheehan versus Matters Feminas. I think that would be a fantastic fight. I'd love to see that. James Sheehan looks
perfect
savage
step up as well.
Good step up, but I think Sheehan needs that kind of a step up. I think he's ready. He was unbelievable in his last fight. Teki Makalinen versus new signee Chris Bungar. That's a fight I would love to see in the lightweight division.
That'd be a nice loose one. I'd like that.
Yeah. In the middleweight division, James Webb versus Will Curry. I know James is confirmed for the card. Will Curry is the up and comer in the division now. I think it's a good test for Will Curry against a former champion. It's a good test for James to get back in there. There might be other fights there. I think James has an option of a couple of good fights there. But if I would like to see him in there is with Will Curry. I think there's a good matchup, and then we're going to go with a triple header of title fights to round us off. And I think these fights kind of make themselves. Joe McColgan versus George Hardwick for the lightweight title. I think you could look at Betty Ben Lakhdar as well, a rematch there for the title. But I think George Hardwick has turned up in his last couple of fights. I believe, I believe he deserves to get that crack at the lightweight title and give it to Joe McColgan in his back garden. He never lost it. So give him that opportunity in the welterweight division.
Joe.
In the welterweight division, Rhys McKee versus Matthias Figlak. I know Justin Burlinson called out Rhys McKee for the title. I think he'll get his chance. I think Figlak is one of the best fighters in the division, and it'd be a good challenge for both Figlak and for Rhys McKee. And it's a fight I'd really like to see. And the main event really makes itself look. It'll be interesting to see what Jordan Vucenic's next move is. But I'd like to see him go in there and unify the featherweight title against interim champion Paul Hughes in the main event. That's a hell of a card, guys.
Caoilte, do you want to do yours next? I'll do mine, and then maybe I can stick them up side by side, I think, and we can have a little chat about them all.
Go on, go for it.
We overlapped on and stuff. So you go.
Yeah,
you go for yours next. So let me pull up your one. It's there we go.
Here we go. I have a few. Jesus Christ, is that flyweight for Paddy McCurry? Jesus,
never
that's
mind
some
the
weight
details
cut,
here. Who made these? Fuck's sake.
Oh my god!
And just so we didn't know before we made our picks, we just talked about putting this card together, and nobody knew who the matchups were. So it's interesting to see everyone's card. We're seeing it for the first time, the same as you guys as well.
I scrambled at the last minute to put these graphic together, so that's why Patrick McCarry is a flyweight now, as is big Michael Chamu.
Oh yeah, no.
Anyway, take it away.
Go on. So Patrick McCarry I feel like it's time for him to kind of get the push into Cage Warriors, and after doing so well at Cage Conflict. So that middleweight division is getting more and more exciting. So I think I'd love to see him put in there, and there's no funner fight. I think this just be really good. Great test as well. In Michael Chamu. So love that fight. I think I'd love to see it. Kieran Mulholland, I think it's time for him to come back to Cage Warriors as well. He was there for a while, and he obviously had his last few fights with Cage Conflict. So it'd be nice to see him get a chance back there again. And I have him up against Serdar Altus, the Swede. I think that would be a really good fight, and might not be the only Swede that I have on this card, but let's get to that later. Amran Shaban against Jack Tucker. Jack Tucker's 1-0, and I think it'd be the perfect entry fight for Amran. I'd love it. It's I think it'd be very fun. So I have that one there. Matthew Elliott versus Nick Bagley. I love this. This is one of my favorite ones actually.
Bagley's a wrestler, is he?
From GB top team. They're all it's a fairly good team.
Yeah.
Like,
Nice style matchup.
Yeah, like kind of. I saw it thinking I'd love to see this, and Matthew Elliott obviously he's on the rise, so in that wrestling background, so I'd love to see him in there. Adam Shelley versus Milad Ahadi is my next one. Bit of a random one almost, I guess, but I watched Milad's last fight, and I kind of thought it would match up quite nicely. My next one is here. Caolan Loughran versus Takamandu is sure, look, stir a bit of shit. I think just a little, yeah.
Look at this fucking shit stir. Look at
only
this.
fantasy. What can I say?
Go on, you've got quiet there now. Defend this right now.
Why
you
not?
Hate Irish people.
Oh Jesus!
You want to see them fail? I would never want to see Irish people fight against each other.
You're a big proponent of that, Andy.
No, staunch against it.
Here, like I think I'd love to see it anyway. I think Andy said it to Caolan in the interview as well. So I think it'd be fun, and having a few domestic kind of not regional fights, but fighters from Ireland fighting each other adds a bit of tension to the card, a bit of drama. Love it.
It does, and Cage Warriors do that. I mean, like we see cards in England with UK-based fighters fighting each other as well. I mean, you don't want to see an abundance of them, but for an extra bit of spice on the card, I'm on the same lines as you, Caoilte. I know I had two Irish fighters going against one another as well. I like to see it every now and then.
It's gas how it happens so often with English fighters facing, and I know we're a smaller country, but like there's nothing ever said when two English fighters fight against each other, but all hell breaks loose when you suggest having two Irish fighters fight.
Literally. And go on, we'll go on to the next one. Decky McAleena versus Paul McBain. I believe this fight was going to happen at the last Cage Warriors until Decky ended up with Tobias Harila. So I'd like that one to actually happen this time. I think it would be at featherweight if I'm not correct, but it doesn't matter. Just want to see the fight. Ryan Shelley versus Ben Ellis. Another one. I'd absolutely love it. The Shelleys, they're so good to watch. And I think it'd be a good step up for Ryan. I think it'd be kind of like whoever wins that fight would go on to almost better, they take the next big step basically in Cage Warriors, how I see it. And onto the main card. I love the main card. So we've got Dylan Tuke versus James Hendon. I rate Dylan Tuke so highly. I think he is up there in that division, and I know it's the same with Paul Hughes. I'd never make that fight, because I'm pretty sure they'd be friendly. But Dylan Tuke against James Hendon, I think it'd be fireworks, and I'd love to see him get that opportunity in Cage Warriors. I'd
watch the shit out of Paul Hughes versus Dylan Tuke, just for the record. I would love to watch that fight.
Go on, Andy. James Sheen, Madras Flaminas, me and Ian have the same fight there. I imagine Andy's probably going to have it too, to be honest. And James Webb and Will Curry. Jeez, we're similar enough.
Great minds think alike, Caoilte. Great
Telling
minds
you.
think alike.
And you know, I find interesting. I think all three of us have 3 title fights on the card. So Joe McColgan versus George Hardwick. Fight makes itself, to be honest with you. I have Reece McGee versus Justin Burlinson, because I think that's probably what's going to happen. But I feel like doing an injustice to Figlak. I feel like he's in with a shout, to be honest.
It's going to be one or the other. You have to feel, isn't it? If that fight does go down.
Surely you can't. I don't see him bringing in anyone else, and you have those 2 there. And last but not least, and I don't think this is going to be popular one at all, is the other Swede I was mentioned earlier, and that is Paul Hughes versus Tobias Harila for the featherweight belt. I think anyone who's following Irish MMA, it's very hard to miss this at the moment. Tobias Harila is just hounding Paul Hughes for this fight. And I say this one because I think it'd be fun. I'd love to watch it. But also, I think Jordan Vucenic is going to go to the UFC straight out. I don't think he's going to come to Belfast and fight in Paul's backyard, to be honest with you. I think he's going to go to the UFC. I think UFC's next for him. And who else do you put against Paul Hughes? Maybe you guys would have some other suggestions, but that's mine. That's my card.
Nice one, Caoilte. It's a good one. A solid one as well. We move over to Andy's now, which probably just copied both of ours, but
yeah, I just copied your homework basically. Right, Ian, great shout earlier on. Ger Harris versus Loner Kavanagh. Wow, this is going to be violence. I mean,
Make
we know
it happen.
we're very familiar on the Irish scene with Ger Harris. Loner Kavanagh looked sensational in that. I think it was Cage Warrior's debut. Right, he went 3-0. Yeah, he's now 3-0. This is. I don't think they should make this fight, but I want to see it, if you know what I mean. I think they should let them both go off separate ways, and then maybe for a title down the road. I'd love to see that.
We've seen it before. You look at James Sheehan versus Ian Gary. Both their like, I mean, look at it. It's so hard.
Yeah.
Both guys obviously they probably want to remain undefeated, but those are the fights that mold you, and that's just a fantastic fight. It would be an exciting stand-up war. I can understand why you wouldn't make it, but I'd love to see it. The same as yourself, Andy. It's a great shout.
Absolutely. So next we got at welterweight, Andreas Binder. I want him signed, and I want him fighting Mick Stanton. I think give him a nice, tough veteran of Cage Warriors. Let him hang with, there's a very crowded welterweight division in Cage Warriors at the moment, but I think that's exactly where Andreas Binder needs to be. Now, Cage Warriors don't pay that much money. So if you're looking for money, this may not be it, but get him on that card. I'd say get him into Cage Warriors in general and let him get in the mix with all the top welterweights in Europe, because for me, they're in Cage Warriors at the moment. Mick Stanton, I think, is just a solid, gritty veteran, so I'd like to see that one. Omran Shaban, another welterweight, versus O'Meal Brown. I think this would be a scrap. O'Meal Brown's last fight there on the last double header shows, I thought he looked brilliant. So I think Omran Shaban's a step above the competition that O'Meal Brown faced in his last out in there, so I think that'd be a scrap. Takamandu versus Liam Gittins. Gimme that action.
Ooh, that's a good fight.
Tough fight for Taka.
It will be a tough one to start off.
Big step up.
Big step up, especially like Liam Gittins is very experienced, but I think Taka has got a lot of skill, and I guess to counterpoint myself 2 fights ago with Ger Harris versus Loner Kavanagh, because you could say the exact same. I think Loner Kavanagh would be a tough fight for Ger Harris. Not that he wouldn't win, but that it's a skill guy, and
It's
I think
a good
it's the
test,
same.
but like that's what Cage Warriors is, really, isn't it? Like, you're not going to get easy fights when you get in there, and that's why I love the matchmaking from Ian Dean. Is like, he's one of the best in the business, because he knows the right fights to make at the right time for the right fighters. So I mean, we're doing his job for him here now. I mean, he could have an easy run at it. All he needs to do is look at this podcast.
We'll do like an amalgamation, and then whichever ones get picked the most, that'll be the card. Adam Shelley versus Adam Cullen, Battle of the Adams, lightweight. So I want to see that fight. Caolan Loughran versus Luke Riley. That's the one I want to see. He called for it.
He wants it.
He's been calling for it. There's shit talk there. They're both exciting. They're both undefeated. Let's have them fight. Similar to, I think, Caoilte, you had this one, Decky McAleenan versus Paul McBain. I think this makes sense for 2 reasons. One, because they were scheduled to fight. Paul McBain was he was kind of not sidestepped in that he was kind of pushed to the side just due to circumstances and logistics because of a fight's falling out. But I think it makes sense to run that back. And also, they're both coming off losses. They're both in a bit of a lull in their career, and each of them badly need to win. So, two guys who are in the valley, I would say, when we're talking peaks and valleys, they're definitely in the valley at the moment. So let's have them scrap it out. Then we've got Ryan Shelley. Ian, do you this one, I think? Ryan Shelley versus Manny Akpan. Wow. Ryan Shelley, serious striker. Manny Akpan, that KO that he had there, insane. So I think that'll be a fun matchup.
Two phenomenal strikers going at it.
Believe it or not, I diverged away from what we thought we'd all pick for James Sheehan, and I've gone with, after speaking to Andy Ryan down at Team Rhino last week, Alexei Mantekivi, and I think this is a great shout.
It's a hint.
Would there be some kind of inside information going on there now, Andy?
No inside information, but I think they want this fight.
Could scrap that.
Great.
I'm not coming at things with information that I have. I have nothing. But Jesus, this would be a good scrap, especially after Mantekivi's last knockout. They both had some sick knockouts on the last show. So Jesus, and do you know what? Mantekivi's right up there. Like I know he lost to Rhys McKee, but he is right up there. I think. Then where we've gone. James Webb versus Will Curry. Yeah, 3 out of 3.
Crazy that we've all went for that fight, isn't it?
And you said it exactly, Ian. I think it makes so much sense because James Webb is in this weird spot where he's at the top of the division, but he's not really, because he's been around. When you're around that title picture for so long, but then you're not the champion anymore, and then you've lost a fight. It's like, all right, well, where do you go from here? And I think if he was to get a win over Will Curry, who's a rising, contender almost in the division, he's kind of on that. He's on that edge for prospect.
Will Curry, and Will Curry is improving each fight that he goes in, and a good proven fight for James Webb and a good test for Will Curry. I just think that fight makes sense. I'd love to see it. Yeah,
and then we got Rhys McKee Burlinson. I think it sells itself. It's there on a platter for Cage Warriors to make. Maybe Figlak deserves it because of the number of fights he's won recently, but look, they both want it. It makes sense. Joe McColgan versus George Hardwick. I don't know if we're going to see Joe on the card. I mean, we haven't heard anything from Joe as of late, and we're only 2 months away now, so you never know. I'd like to see this fight though. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Even if he's on it, or if he's not on it, or if it's not for a title,
this is what I want to see.
I'd really love to see Joe on the card at least. Hopefully he can make that happen, and obviously he has to decide that. But it'd be a shame if he didn't get the chance to compete on that card. Whether it be for a title, whether it not be for a title, but I think we're all in agreement. We'd all love to see him fighting for.
Joe's the champion, right?
He's the champion. He never lost the belt. He never lost the belt.
I know that technically he's not the champion right now because he relinquished it, but he relinquished it under the guise of not the guys, but the we thought George Hardwick and Mehdi Ben Lactor were going to fight for it, and then that didn't happen, and then George Hardwick was supposed to fight for it again. That didn't happen. So Joe's the champ, and then Vucenic versus Hughes. Be interesting to see.
You all went with the safe bet. You all went for
at the moment, for Jordan Vucenic is the champion. He's not a UFC fighter as of right now. So long as he's there, he's got the belt over his shoulder. I want to see them unify.
Yeah, I just went based off what we know right now, and there's been no indication that Vucenic is off. And yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I think one of two of those fights is going to happen, whether it be Vucenic. I think the guy next in line will be Tobias Haralja, and both will be equally good fights. But I think a fight like Vucenic versus Paul Hughes is a fight that's worthy to headline a card like that up in Belfast, and it'd be an absolutely phenomenal atmosphere up there, and a great fight as well. And we were disappointed that we didn't get to see it the last time, and the perfect setting would be for the Belfast show. But it'll be interesting to see how it all works out and where Vucenic goes.
And there we have the three of them side by side. So I mean, there's so many Irish fighters, right, that could be on this card. If I think of, there's some that maybe, or that I didn't mention anyway. I think that your shout for Dylan Tuke is great. I'd like to see him on the card. Someone like a Matt Elliott, a Sean O'Bannon. I don't have, it's because I wouldn't even know who to match her up with here.
That's right. I thought about Sean and myself. I'd love to see it happen, but you're basically going to have to sign a bunch of women up there to build a division and to get that off the ground. So I honestly, from what I've seen so far, there's been no word on it. They've announced about 26 new signings. None of them have been women. So I just think that it's a little bit like they don't have enough time really to, unless they do something in between now and the show goes on. Like, I just can't see it happening right now. So I'd love to see it. I think that would be the perfect setting for Shauna, and I think that, you know, Cage Warriors should sign. It'd be a good idea for them to sign her, build a division, and you could build a division around Sean. And there's lots of talent out there, so it'd be interesting to see.
I think an issue with kind of building the division, which it's unfortunate to say, is that a lot of the talent seems to be snapped up elsewhere. Like, I think 2 or 3 are now with Aries, or I can't even. I'm saying it wrong, but they're, you know.
No, you're
promotion.
right, Aries. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay, cool. And then you have Dakota Shave off and UAE Warriors. So I think the talent probably was there, but they probably just didn't snap it up in time, and it's kind of, they've all kind of gone off elsewhere. It's a shame, because it would be fantastic.
Yeah. You know what I might like to see at some point? That the woman who what's her name now, that Decheva just fought, Bittencourt, I think her name is Paula Bittencourt. That could be a good fight for Shauna at some point soon. But although it depends on the weight class, I suppose. But sure, we'll see.
We'll move on. You know, there's a question about Sean in the questions and answers section, which we will go to right now. And the first, let's go to that question first. Look at Paul Brown, great man, great job at Cage Legacy, great job at your championships. He can do it all.
That man does it all.
He is a master of all trades, and he did a fantastic
He's a
job.
beautiful body on him as well. Did you see how ripped he is? Oh my God.
Looks fantastic in a suit as well. I mean, he should be walking around in that suit all the time.
Stop it.
Unreal. A legend. But he did a great job behind the desk and announcing as well. Yeah, fair play to him for that. But he asks, what's next for Sean O'Bannon? Could it be a title defense again with Cage Legacy, which, you know, another a title defense is an option. Another fight with Cage Legacy is an option. She did mention in the interview with us, though, that she probably wasn't going to compete at strawweight again, that she'd likely move up to flyweight. So, you know, she's staying active. She's been on her Instagram saying that she's waiting for any potential opportunity that may come up. So that
kind of makes sense then, doesn't it? That she'd go to flyweight if she's looking to kind of just jump at any opportunity. You don't have to worry about a big weight cut.
Yeah, it is. And like getting down to strawweight, like the weight cut can take so much out of you as well. So, you know, something that I picked up on when we spoke to her in the last episode, that, you know, she said she wasn't too keen, but you never know what opportunities may arise for Shauna. But what's next for her? I think the world is her oyster. You know, you've got the Bellator card coming up next year. I don't think she's going to hang around and wait until September to fight next. I don't think that would be a good idea. You know, the option is there. If Cage Legacy were willing to put on another professional fight, she could go and she could fight on that card again. You know, it'd be close to her hometown as well. What do you guys think? What should her next move be? Maybe I'll go to you first, Quilsha.
Invicta, I think. I'd love to see Invicta. The one fight deal kind of way, I think that's the way forward for her. And I think Invicta would be perfect. I'd also love to see UAE Warriors. And then there's the option of that promotion up in Canada. So that, they look pretty good. They're giving out decent bonuses too. So, you know, that could be tempting. So yeah, any of those
That's
three. That's
Athena or something. What's it called? Athena Women's Fighting Championship or something like that.
It's run by
Palace Athena, I think it's called, or something.
That's the one. Yeah, I think that would be good.
Andy, yourself, what would you like to see for Shauna next?
Oh God, I don't know. If I'm honest, maybe. Look, I think that maybe you know what? Maybe another one on Cage Legacy, defend the title, because I think that's just gonna look. No disrespect to Cage Legacy, but that is a limited shelf life, right? So they're only going to be able to get so many women to come in and fight her. I think if you have one or two there and then move on. So if she wanted to defend that belt, get one more fight there, maybe another one in front of a boisterous Tala crowd, and then you know, look to see what options are out there, whether it's as basically all the options that Caoilte just put out there. When you have a fighter like Shauna, where it is a case where you have to kind of just like jump at whatever opportunity is available, there's no point in really talking about, oh, what do you think is next, because it could come from anywhere. Like there's other fighters you could say, oh yeah, I can see the clear path, like they've signed with Cage Warriors, next fight's going to be a slight step up, then a contender fight, then a title fight. You just don't know what's going to happen here. So yeah, maybe defend once more and then move on.
Yep, that's a fair assessment, and it'll be interesting to see what Shauna does. The great man Sean Sheehan asks, give us your pick of one up-and-coming fighter each you'd like Bellator to sign for the upcoming card, and they all have to be from different gyms. So we'll all pick one fighter each. They have to be from different gyms. I guess the one that stands out to me that I would like to see Bellator sign would be Jordan O'Neill. I think I'd like to see him make the jump to the middleweight division. I think he'd be well suited there. It's good power. I know that he is going to look to turn pro now after his fight with Troy Gibson. So, he's had a really good amateur career, picked up belts at multiple weight classes, looked absolutely fantastic in that Troy Gibson fight. And I'd love to see him get a crack at the big show in Dublin. I think he's ready for it. And I think he put on a great show there. And that's who I would like to see. Andy.
Give me Dylan Tuke in Dublin. I want to see one fight deal. Dylan Tuke. Don't really care who he fights, but I think he'd bring a mass. I just think he'd be really good crack on a Dublin card. I think he'd bring a great energy. So that's who I want.
And yourself, Caoilte?
So I am going to go with Sean O'Bannon. Didn't actually use Bellator in my examples or my options, but one fight deal, as Andy said, with same with Dylan Tuke. One fight deal with Bellator. I think she'd draw a good crowd. Like, saw what Tala was like. So can't imagine what type. Geez, the reception she could get inside a 3 arena could be really, really cool. And I
get Valerie Laredo over for her.
Oh Jesus,
she comes from a taekwondo background, doesn't she?
We're mad for the matchmaking today, lads.
That's a fight that makes a lot of sense, though, doesn't it?
Danny McCormick was calling for that fight.
I think I personally, I think, not saying that Shauna wouldn't win, but I think that you probably want to be matching her up with someone along the same lines of a record. She's only 1-0 right now, but it would be a good fight. And like if Shauna did make the move over to Bellator, that's definitely a fight that would be worth putting on down the line. Not sure for her first fight in Bellator, but I mean, stranger things have happened too.
Sure wasn't Valerie Laredo's first few opponents about 0-24 or something? No?
You are, yeah. That's your style of matchmaking, isn't it, Andy? Andy Hickey, another great man. Sean Bitter recently put up a list of the best prospects in UK and Ireland. Who's your top 3 ones to watch across Irish MMA, whether it be professional or amateur? I'll go to you first, Caoilte.
Jesus. Well, I didn't prepare for this one. Go on, let's go for... I'm going to go all amateur because we talk about the pros a lot. Going to go for Nadine Abba-Bissett. It's an obvious one after the IMMAF Worlds. Going to go with Keith Keogh, another one. And then Jordan O'Neill, I'm going to go for after the weekend. I think they're my 3.
Yeah, Andy.
Do you know want to go first, Ian?
I will go with let's see, I'll go with amateur, and I'll go with Oisin Fox, someone who I can't wait to see that guy fight again. I thought he was massively impressive.
I'll piggyback off that one as well and say Oisin Fox.
Another guy that's really impressing me right now is Alex Josan, breaking records, finishing fights. I think that he's definitely one to look out for. And who else? Let's go with Gary Rooney too, up the flats. Another great guy. He's been on with us in SevereMMA too. Just a really good fighter, really stand-up guy, and I'm excited to see his progression. He says he wants to stay amateur for the next while, and always in good fights and a great lad. Definitely look out for him. Probably everyone probably knows these names, but look at those are the ones that I'll keep an extra eye on, and everybody else should too.
I'm gonna make it easier on myself here, and I'm gonna go with the pros. I think, seeing as you guys went with amateurs, I'll go with pros because he did say pro and AMI, so I'll take that exit route there. So what is your so it's prospects, right? So Dylan Tuke, does he count as a prospect still?
No, he doesn't.
No.
Count. No, I don't.
I know
think so.
he's been around a while, but
He's over 5 fights, so
Yeah, no, they're not getting away that easy. Man. Come on.
under 5 fights. We'll go for we'll hit a limit there.
Right, let's go. Under 5 fights, Ryan Shelley. I'm gonna go with Ryan Shelley. Number 1. Number 2. Jesus, I am so unprepared for this. Number 2. Oh God. I'll go with Keith Kyo as well. Someone said Keith Kyo. I think that's a good shout. I know he's not a pro. I said I'd go pro. Oh lads, I'm doing fucking shit here. And who would I want for my third? Fuck, I don't know.
Sitting on the fence.
I don't know. Come here, give me.
Well,
let's move on.
Ger Harris.
Oh, jeez.
Tiarnan Loughran.
I mean, yeah, Ger Harris, absolutely. Yeah, Ger Harris. I'll go
There
Ger
you go.
Harris.
There we
Perfect.
go.
Perfect.
Sorry, that was terrible listening.
We got there in the end anyway.
Sean Denny, another great man. All the legends are popping in for questions today. Some of the big jiu-jitsu tournaments have brought in a new rule where you surrender your prize money. If you agree to walk over with a teammate during the tournament. So teammate versus teammate, they don't want to fight. You refuse to fight. We've seen it, I think, at the Irish National Championships. The new rule brought in would say you forfeit your prize money. There's very little prize money.
There's no prize money in
There's
MMA,
there's no prize money in it. So, like, I mean, I guess would you like to see this rule brought into amateur MMA? There's no real prize money in right now, but like I kind of agree with Sean that, if you're signing up for a tournament and you know that your teammate is in it, well, I mean, yeah, I would be of the opinion that they probably should fight if you're both signing up, or if you don't want to fight, you make the decision who's going to compete in the tournament and who isn't. I mean,
I agree.
I can understand it at a professional level, but at an amateur level, I mean, you're going to probably come across it a lot more. But I would be of the opinion is that decision probably needs to be made before the tournament starts, or I guess you'd have
It just
to
makes
fight.
it makes it very anticlimactic, doesn't it?
It
If you
does,
get to
yeah, it does.
like the
That's what
IMMAF
happened.
there, yeah.
I mean, it's difficult. It's a difficult position to be in to fight a teammate, but we've seen former teammates fight each other into professional ranks, and we've seen teammates and fight each other maybe in the amateur ranks as well in the past. I'm not too familiar with it, but I believe in order to get over that problem, it's a decision that has to be made before the tournament goes down. What do you guys think?
Completely agree. Maybe there could be, you could end, if it does happen, you limit that gym to one entry for the next year. That could be one way around it. So if it does, you punish it by limiting them to one entry. I don't know, though. That could be, it's a tough one, to be honest, but those conversations should be had before the competition starts. Sorry, Andy. Yeah,
it's a bit shit because like I can see it from the fighter's perspective. Like, there's a massive difference between your sparring in the gym versus going into live competition. Like, say, like the IMMAs, right? Like, they both want to have that experience of competing there, but you have to, I don't know what the answer is, but yeah, I don't want to see fighters be like, oh no, sorry, I'm not going to fight now. The final, like, you get to the final, you're kind of getting excited, being like, right, these are the two best competitors here, so let's see who's better, and then one of them just forfeits. It's like, right, well, are you really the champion? I don't know. I can't say that you're now parading yourself as a national champion, but it's like, well, you didn't fight the potential next best guy who could be better than you. So who knows? And I'm not saying that those guys specifically were doing that or anything like that, but that's the case. And similarly, what was the IMMAFs where you had the two Gitnoff and Gusanov? Yeah, like
it's happened twice now.
I'd love to see those fight.
Amazing.
So maybe what it should be is put them in the same side of the bracket, and then you at least have a final. So if it's a case that they want to give a walkover in the semi-final or something, fine. But then have a final so that you have to actually fight for your gold medal.
That's how IMMAF do it now, actually.
That's a good way to do it.
Yeah,
Good
you
way
put
to
them in the
do
same
it.
bracket at the start, so that way you actually end up in a final and you don't end up like a Gusanov Gitnoff situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Okie dokes. On to the next one. The final set of questions from Thomas Delaney, who asked, who would you match Rhys McKee up with the next Cage Warriors? We kind of answered that with our fantasy matchmaking. The same question: who would you match Ian Gary with in his next fight in the UFC? I know that Ian was recently on with Niall McGrath. He was saying either Matt Brown or Brian Barberina. I kind of like either one of those matchups for Ian. I think there'd be a big step up for him, that being said. But I mean,
imagine the Matt Brown fight. That'd be fun, wouldn't it?
Be a fun fight, yeah.
Big step up.
It would be a big step
Big
up
name
now.
as well.
Yeah, and maybe that's why he's throwing those names out there. We didn't
the first
really
person
talk.
that comes to my mind is a teammate of his is Mickey Gall. That's
Yeah,
who but they're teammates, so they're not. That's not going to
happen. Mike Mallet that fought. He'd be a good fight. He'd be a good matchup for him. Like, we didn't really talk too much about Ian Gary's performance overall, but maybe we can just have a quick conversation about that. And his last fight with Darian Weeks, I thought, he's put on a very, very good performance against Darian Weeks. I think that people need to cool the jets a little bit on Ian Gary and the expectations and stuff like that, because, we have to remember he's 24 years of age. He's very early in his MMA career. He's very early in his UFC career. And, he goes out.
What did you think of the performance, Ian?
I thought the performance was very good. Like, he didn't lose 1 second of that fight, to be honest. Really, he got 15 minutes in the bank. He hurt him in the third round. He showed he was good using his jab. His shot selection was good throughout the fight. Looked strong in the clinch, and that's it. He never really looked in trouble. Like, he'll be disappointed probably he didn't get the finish, but those minutes that he got inside the octagon are going to be so crucial. He's going to learn so much more about himself. Like, you see fighters going in there and knocking guys out after 1 minute or 2 minutes. And, we saw something similar in the Chimaev fight against Gilbert Burns as well, as that, Chimaev went 15 minutes with one of the best there, and he was talking about finishing him and he didn't. But you know what? He'll get so much more out of that, the same as the Ian Gary will get so much more out of his 15 minutes in there with Darian Weeks. You have to remember that Darian Weeks he's not really an aggressive fighter, not really an offensive fighter. He fought very, very defensively against Ian Gary, which Ian Gary should take some solace from, because that means that, he is recognized as a dangerous fighter. So it's hard to go in there and fight a fight like that when you're going against someone who's not really given that much output. But I was impressed. Does he have to work on a few things? Yes. Does he need to improve a little bit to get to the highest level in the UFC? Yes, he does. But he'll tell you that himself. But these comparisons with him and Chimaev are ridiculous, in my opinion. I think Chimaev is 28, Ian Gary is 24. You can't even put them in the same breath, in my opinion. And Chimaev went in there and improved himself. And Ian Gary went in there and proved himself as well, proved that he can go 15 minutes, showed a good gas tank, and never looked in trouble in that fight at all for 1 second. And it was a much better performance, I believe, even though he got a stunning knockout in his UFC debut, but he didn't perform well. I think he'll get much more confidence out of going in there for 15 minutes and performing the way he performed against Darian Weeks, and he'll take a lot of lessons out of it, and he'll bring it back to the gym, and he'll work, and we'll see a better version of him again. What do you guys think of that? Were you impressed with his performance, and who would you like to see him fight next?
Andy, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I think you summarized it very well, Ian. To be honest, that was great. Look, I think number one, I was impressed. I was impressed by the performance, but when you're hyped so much, and when you're telling everyone that I am the next big thing, that I am the next star, I am the next this and that, and you don't get a finish. And look, I thought that the fight was relatively boring, but I don't think it was Ian Gary's fault. Like, as you said, Darian Weeks offered nothing. Like, he was looking to counter-strike and not really doing anything. Whereas Ian, it was one-way traffic the entire way through, comfortably won the fight. Thought it defensively looked a lot better. If it was anyone but Ian Gary, you'd say that's a solid win. Not the most exciting fight in the world, but it's a very solid win. Cruised to victory. Took no damage pretty much. But it's because of the hype and the way, this isn't my opinion, but if you go and look at the comment sections on Ian Gary stuff at the moment, he just doesn't seem to be being received well. by the audience, and I think that
it doesn't
coupled
seem
with
it doesn't seem natural sometimes what he's
No.
saying. Sometimes it feels a little bit forced, and I think that maybe he'll figure that out about himself, just maybe being a little bit more natural. His interview with Sean Sheehan was excellent. He's a little bit more comfortable. He's spoken to Sean many times before his fights, and
I agree.
I think that maybe on the big stage, and maybe he feels the pressure to talk up this big game. Maybe that's a decision that he's been making right now, but maybe it'll be interesting to see, because there's no problem with being confident, but yeah, you're leaving yourself open when you're saying you're the next big thing and you're not finishing fights, but it's not easy to do. At least he didn't go out there and lose. It's interesting.
No,
he's got a lot of stuff
good.
going on right now. He's recently married. He has a kid on the way now as well. There's a lot of stuff going on for a young man, so he's balancing a lot of things right now, and being able to go in there and perform at the highest level as well in the UFC is difficult.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's weird as well with Irish fighters at the moment, because like after Conor McGregor and like to James or other fighters who were like perceived as like acting like McGregor, and that was a big criticism of Irish fighters. Now what I'm seeing from my perspective anyway are fighters going in here who have been inspired by Conor McGregor and actively saying, I was a kid when I was looking up to him and I want to follow in his footsteps. Not in a way like Ian Gary's nothing like Conor McGregor as far as personality.
No,
like
and you can't blame him either for getting
and he's not and he's not trying to be, but I think what isn't being received well from fans, and not just Ian, is anyone going in and associating themselves or like even talking about Conor McGregor, which is a bit shit, because like they were like, this is all true. He was a kid and he looked up to him, and the same I'm sure with like Dean Barry. Like if Dean Barry, this is my worry, like let's say Barry goes in this weekend, right? He gets a great win, he gets a great knockout, and then he starts talking about Conor McGregor, and he may believe every single word of it, but I just see fans being like, oh, here we go again. So
it's something that you're going to have to deal with, I think, but not we're going to have to deal with. It's something that we're probably going to see time and time again, because we are seeing the next generation of Irish fighters who have been inspired by Conor McGregor. Like, you can say what you want about Conor, but his story is fucking inspirational, really, you know. And I would prefer myself to just go in there and to be your own person. And
you nailed it with that.
That's not just down to Ian Gary, that would be to everyone. I mean, what do you think, Caoilte?
No, you're bang on. I think that last line there, that summed it up. Just be yourself. Kind of, there's a few characters that they're just themselves, and kind of Irish MMA and MMA in general, and like you appreciate it
They're
more.
the most intriguing. They're the most intriguing. Like, look at say
Joe
Jerry Harris.
McColligan is like, Jerry Harris too. They just act with themselves. Like, it's more interesting, and you kind of get more engaged with those people, I find. It's fantastic, like when they do it, but when if it comes across as forced, as sometimes it does with Ian, it can turn a crowd sour, as we've seen with some of the reception he's gotten from the kind of fans in general. But look, hopefully he can turn it around. As Ian said, he's very young, a lot going on. So the actual fight, but to go back to the fight, I was left wanting more, to be honest. Darian Weeks did not engage enough, so that's not Ian Gary's fault. So very tough one. It wasn't as exciting. For the position it was on the card as well, I imagine a lot of people were left wanting more. But can only hope for better next time.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I just want to reiterate the point is that, like, let's give Ian a little bit of a chance here now as well. Like, I mean, he's had a lot of stuff that's happened. I don't think you can question the mental side of his game, but he needs to have the time here to be able to develop his skills.
100%, but the problem is,
when he's talking himself up, when he's going in saying I'm the third best talker in MMA, and then the crowd, like, look at, I mean, this isn't, I'm not even saying this is my opinion, just look at the comment section. Like, it's not being received well, and at a certain point you have to be like, right, this isn't working. Like, if I'm trying to get a movement going behind me, which is what he seems to be trying to do, you have to people need to buy in. Like, I maybe I'm beleaguering the point here, but like you said about authenticity, I said Jerry Harris there. Other fighters, like we had Caolan Loughran on there, love him or loathe him, that lad comes across as authentic to me. So does Paddy Pimblett. So does Dylan Tuke. And they're engaging, and like you want to watch them because you don't. They just seem real. And I'm not saying Ian isn't real,
but it's just not being received well. So when you're talking a big game,
the assessment is it doesn't seem as natural as what we have seen. But the problem is, Andy, is that we know what we've seen him. We've seen him come up along. So we have.
Yeah.
The wider audience in the States have not. They're probably just getting their first glimpse of Ian Garry and what he's saying and his story and coming out.
This is Ian Garry to an extent. Like,
it is.
He's been this cocky, like, Jesus, the amount of fucking voice messages we all got when he was an amateur, being like, I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread, basically.
He's been doing this for a long time. He's 2 or 3 professional fights saying that he wants to fight Kamaru Usman. Like, I mean, he has been saying some stuff like that throughout. But the problem with that is that he was going out and finishing guys and winning impressive fights. And it was, like, I will say it was impressive against Darian Weeks, but it didn't knock anybody's socks off, but that's okay. Like, I guess my point of view is, I'm just solely, and something that I like to do is kind of not listen to the talk and just solely focus on the fight itself. And I know you have to listen to the talk, and that does play an integral part in everything, really.
Yeah.
But for me, and you're definitely, the two of you guys are right in what you're saying, is that you're adding extra pressure on when you are talking up yourself and calling yourself this and calling yourself that.
Yeah,
Well,
like, I want him to connect with the fans. I want him to get the backing, but it's as to what you're saying, Ian. He deserves to, like, let him grow. He's still young. He's still putting his game together. So that's why I'd love to see him just take a step back from the talking and just go out there and put fights on. And it doesn't have to be finished every time then. But then at a certain point, everything's going to click because he has all the tools. He just needs to put them together and learn more. And then, a couple of fights down the road, then we could see him putting on fantastic performances and then start talking again a bit more. And maybe I'm wrong in all this, but
no, I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong at all. Like, it's that seems to be the opinion coming out. But Ian is going to do Ian, and, like, at the end of the day, no matter what is said or what is not said, it'll all come down to what happens inside the octagon or inside the cage when he fights. No matter, like, that's going to be the be all and end all. You have to go in there, you have to get the results, and that's going to prove, like, I mean, it's the same. Conor was a good talker too, but you know what? He went in there and he fucking got results. He went in and performed in the biggest stage and the biggest fights and was successful. And Ian Garry may be getting a little bit ahead of himself with his talk, but it'll be interesting to see if he does back it up with some good performances and some finishes. But it's definitely going to be exciting to see. And some good promise. Like, we have to look at him as a prospect inside the UFC right now. I know he won Irish Amateur, or he won the Irish Professional Fighter of the Year, but I would still consider him very young in his mixed martial arts career. And it's a complete different kettle of fish when you go to the UFC, man, compared to anywhere else. So we're 2 fights in. He's got 1 knockout, and he's got 15 minutes inside the octagon. So, I mean, yeah, he'll learn from that. And what is he? He's maybe less than a year now with Sanford MMA. So the longer he's staying there and the longer he's kind of competing with those guys over there, it can only make him better as well. But he 100%. Needs to.
He's on the right path.
When he's talking, I mean, he might be talking. He's still saying at the same time that he does need to improve as well. It's just, what does he believe more? Does he believe what he's saying and how good he is, or does he believe more in that he needs to improve? And I think he does know that he needs to improve, and he does know that he's not the finished article, which is a promising sign to me. But it was a good question from Thomas. It sparked a good conversation and all valid points there. So we went off on massive tangents there.
But it is like, sorry, I'll shut up now.
Keep it going.
10 minutes going.
It's one of those ones where, like, for me, it's cause you care. Like, it's cause you want. I'm probably picking at the little things where, like, maybe making mountains out of molehills here, but it's like you just want everything to click, and that's why it's almost like, when it's Irish fighters, you feel an attachment more so it's like when they're doing great, you're bigging them up, but when there's something that just seems a little bit off, it's like, right, it gets you more, and you want it to be put right.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, I think all valid points, and it'll be interesting to see Ian's progression. So, yeah, good question from Thomas. Good conversation there. And that rounds us up for episode 7 of the Auld Triangle. We appreciate everybody listening and watching on the YouTube channel. If you like what you hear, please subscribe. Please give us a rating on Spotify or on iTunes or on SoundCloud. Share the podcast with a friend. Just spread the word, guys. We appreciate the support. We appreciate everybody listening in, and we will see you again in another 2 weeks' time with some more Auld Triangle. Peace. Thank you to everybody.
I miss you already, lads.
See you soon.